And then, can you guys hear me? All right, good. You better be able to hear me right in front of me. So give me just a minute. Okay, how's it look? Let's do a test on this mic. And let's take a look at everything's good. Okay. And let's do a mic check on the other mic. Let's see. Lisa, are you here?
Right here.
Oh, mic check on this mic.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, go ahead and do a quick check.
Check, check, check.
Yep, sounds great. Awesome. All right, I think we're just about ready. How did we get there? All right, sweet. And do me one favor, Kyle. We have a buzz on the speaker right here. can you just move? Hold on. There's a wire. Yeah, that's the one. Just kind of move it around. Seems to fix it.
Yeah, I can hear it less now already.
Okay. Let's test that out. You guys, I only have 2 more classes and we're done with the Thrivalist course. So it's this tonight, and then I just got communications, and then we'll be done. And that's been, what, a couple years of filming. That was awesome. A lot of work. Oh my goodness. Good. I've lost like 20, 30 pounds just doing PowerPoints, I'll tell you. It's been crazy, which is a good thing that we're getting there. Any thoughts before we start? Everybody online, can everybody hear me okay? Kyle? Okay, sweet. And just for all of those online that are watching today, I got to get a drink of water. Just a little one. So for those online, you're not going to see the TV, you're not going to see the screen, you're not going to see the PowerPoints. We're going to edit those in later. So almost every single time anybody who comes late says, I can't see the screen. Can you please type to those people, oh, he's filming for the course, he's going to put in the slides later. That way they know. And the buzz just came back. If you can move it again. Let me see if we can get rid of that. Not working, huh? Can you do me a favor? Can you unplug the red cord really quickly and then plug it back in? I think there's a little bit of... Test 1, 2. Did it kill it? Can you guys hear me? Hey, Kyle, can you pull out the red? It should not be working. Like my... Not working? Okay, good. Yeah, it's still not working. Bummer. Try to move the cord just one more time. See? If not, I'll just have to do my buzz the whole time. It's so crazy. Does anybody? No, it's not that. Does anybody else have ADD here? Okay, so what happens is this. I literally, like, something will get my attention, I'll lose my focus. But when I get hyper-focused, you can't stop me. Does that make sense? It's just one or the other. There's very little middle ground. And I mean, it's just crazy. Like, you know, I'll be sitting next to somebody in church, and they're doing this. Okay, just a little click, right? And my brain goes like that. Yeah.
I don't have ADD, but if we had a capacitor, we could eliminate the 60 cycle home.
That would be awesome. If we had a capacitor, we could do that. In fact, yeah, no kidding. For some reason, I think I don't. So I was trying to think if there's a way to do that. Can you help me on that later on? Can we fix that? That way we won't have it in the future. And I wanted to hear the rest of your ideas. Can you give it to me after the class? That would be awesome. And so, because I'm going to keep it, did it go down a little tiny bit? Sweet. Okay. All right. So those online, like I was saying, just if anybody comes on and says, I can't hear the screen, just go, oh yeah, or you can't see the screen, just tell them, oh yeah, you're not supposed to. And then we'll go from there. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions, anything before we get started today? Okay. What are you guys most excited about when we're talking about all this stuff? Give me a few things so I can see if I can cover them. Okay.
We're going to be part of the future.
Yeah.
Others won't.
Okay. So just preparing for the future, right?
No, we'll be part of the future.
Yeah.
A lot of people will die.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah. So and maybe some of us will too. I mean, it's interesting. I'm prepared for that.
We all die, but my future children will be part of the future.
Yeah.
And then their future children.
Yeah.
But if I die before that happens,
then it's going to be a little hard to have children.
So I want to survive.
Yep.
And
exactly.
I have purpose.
Exactly. Well, good. We're going to be talking about sanitation, a whole bunch of cool things today. So if you guys have no thoughts, questions, or anything like that, then just give me some big smiles, because I could just use some smiles right now. And then we'll get started. I'm so glad you guys are here. I need some high fives. Give me some high fives. I need a high five from you too. Yeah. Awesome. Ooh. Front row. Let's go. Sweet. Okay. Let's get started. Uh, I'm super excited about this topic because this is one of the most popular ones. I mean, we put this out about 2 days ago and all you guys showed up, all the people online showed up. It didn't take much. I mean, a couple days, even with a holiday 2 days ago, right? And you all showed up. Disease prevention. It's one of the biggest things that people ask me to talk about when I go to the big conferences and other places. They say, can you please talk about sanitation and hygiene and human waste and all these different things? That's what we're talking about today. So when it comes to disease prevention, let's go to a very popular story, right? The event that happened in Haiti back in 2010. Does everybody remember that? The big earthquake, right? A 7.0 earthquake, right? Okay. Do you remember that there was about 35 to 40 seconds that the earth just shook? That's not long, half a minute. And by the way, in that scenario, just going back to the earthquake section of this course, if you have little kids and it's shaking that long, a lot of times they're focusing on the shaking. A way to get around that is to count the seconds. So you're focusing on the seconds, not the shaking. Does that make sense? So you tell your kids, count it, 1, 2, 3, and that's what they're thinking about at that point. So it helps them out. But 35 to 40 seconds is not that long, but it's an eternity when you're in an earthquake like that. I grew up in Southern California. Has anybody ever gone through some earthquakes in California, other places? You know what I'm talking about, right? Okay, where were you at? Santa Clarita. Awesome. What about you? Sacramento. A couple more. Bay Bridge. Oh my goodness. You were at the Bay Bridge. The one that when it fell and everything else. You got to be kidding. That's so crazy. Oh yeah. To Chile's horrendous, right? And Alaska and a few other places, right? Okay. Northridge. Oh my goodness. What about you? Yeah. In Taiwan, you were there?
6 earthquakes that were 6 or greater.
6 or greater. Isn't that crazy? I remember being in California, went through a whole bunch of earthquakes to the point where you get used to it. You're shaking in the bed, and you're like, oh, go to bed, right? But as a teenager, I ended up telling my mom I wanted a waterbed. And so that was pretty cool because I'm in a waterbed and I'm dreaming about surfing and stuff. And I'm like, whoa. The funny thing is, one of my friends, his dad was on the toilet through one of the big earthquakes. And if you have been through earthquakes before, there's earthquakes that go like this, and then they do this, and then earthquakes that just kind of do this to start out with. This was one of the, and he fell off the toilet. It was kind of funny. So anyways, but going back to a serious topic, when we look at what happened in Haiti, okay, there was over 230,000 people dead. Okay, almost a quarter of a million people. That's a lot of people. Okay, about 300,000 people injured. There was about 1.5 million people displaced. Can you imagine half of Utah dead, injured, or displaced? Okay, more than half. Isn't that crazy? That's what happened in this little tiny part of an island, not even a whole island. This little tiny part of an island. Okay? When that happened, that's about 15% of their population, and they were homeless. Many of those people were homeless, not just for weeks, not just for months, but many of them for years. Now, she doesn't know I'm going to do this, but Elisa, come up.
Oh my God.
You didn't know I was going to do that. Grab the microphone. Okay? I want you to tell me a little bit about what that was like. You were there.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So I went
Put it a
there
little closer.
as a nurse after the Haiti earthquake. We did a medical mission there. And it was a few weeks, well, probably 2 months actually, after we had to do a bunch of fundraising to get medications there and get everything going. But when we get there, we found things that would normally not even blink an eye about a cut or a scratch or about diarrhea turned into life-changing events. Simple cuts turned into infections, that turned into sepsis, that turned into death. And kids that they couldn't quickly, they didn't have access to hospitals, right? They had these tent hospitals and they were infested with flies and they couldn't even get in if they tried. Kids were dying from diarrhea. They were just literally, I mean, it was very tragic. They had no access to clean water. So I know this is kind of gross. I was just talking about this, but vaginal infections, yeast infections were rampant and they had nothing to help alleviate those things.
Yeah.
So things that we just normally take for granted that we have cures for, lice, fever, mosquito-borne illnesses, things like that, were popping up like crazy.
Yeah.
But they didn't even know what an earthquake was. They didn't really even understand what was happening at the time. The interpreters there they really didn't even have a word. They knew the word earthquake, but they did not know what was going on at the time until the walls started falling in. And I spoke to my interpreter. I said, "What do you wish you would have had at the time?" He goes, "Anything." We were using bed sheets to dress wounds, and then we ran out of that.
Yeah.
And they had nothing. So it was a pretty precarious situation. Water was pretty much absent. Electricity was absent. So they weren't eating, they weren't drinking, they weren't sleeping. They were sleeping outside in the streets. It was just all the stars aligned for perfect disaster after disaster after disaster. So it wasn't just the one insult. It went on and on and on.
Thank you. That's yours. You can hold on to it. The crazy thing is that everybody talks about the cholera outbreak that happened in Haiti. Now, this happened, the earthquake was in what, February? The cholera outbreak didn't happen until October, okay? A long time later. But that cholera outbreak was one of the worst in the world. Almost 1 million people, about 820,000 people were infected by that. There was about 10,000 people that died just from the cholera. Luckily, they were able to get some of it in control, right? But that took a long time. So nearly 50% of those people were children. And there was a lot of diarrhea, vomiting, just like she was talking about, severe dehydration. I mean, imagine watching people you love, little kids, elderly, okay, dying because of that. You know, in electrolyte imbalances, you had kidney failure and seizures, and obviously after that comes coma and then death. So that's what happened in Haiti. Now, when you look at the outbreak, it spread because of two big reasons. Does anybody want to guess what those two big reasons are?
Contaminated water and bad sewage.
Okay, so he says contaminated water and bad sewage. What else? Okay. Haiti's poor sanitation infrastructure. And then the last thing,
Starvation means the immune system isn't going to be working.
so it's a little bit different than that. So number two is it actually had to do with the overcrowded, displaced camps. Does that make sense? All these people in one place. Now, us here in the United States, that could never happen, right? Okay, we've already seen it a couple times, right? Look what happened down south with the big hurricane that came in, right? Look what happened up in New York, New Jersey, right? What would happen, right, if we had a nuclear disaster or a war on U.S. soil or EMP attack or a whole bunch of different things? The list goes on and on and on. So the thing is, if you don't prepare for sanitation issues, for knowing what to do with human waste, for hygiene and all this stuff, right, that can become the big culprit. That could be the thing that causes more deaths in the end than anything else if you're not careful. I'm going to put here on the screen for you guys a list of possible infections, possible diseases that can happen because of poor hygiene, poor sanitation, poor human waste disposal, poor trash management. Do you see that? Take a look at that list just for a second. Do you see all that right there? This is just a small list. And a lot of this stuff can spread. If you look at this graph right here I'm showing you, this was back in the 1800s. If you look at that little line, that's where modern sewer systems and waste management began to develop. At the time, and you hear pioneer stories, right, about how many kids died, and you're like, wow, man, that person was really unlucky. And half her children died. But look at the statistic. Almost 1 out of 2 children died before their 5th birthday. And then when you look at where sewage systems and sanitation started kicking in, if you look at today, this number is less than 1%. I mean, we live in a really good time. 6 out of 1,000 children will die before their 5th birthday in the United States. Okay, probably most of the world at this point. There's 4 areas of disease prevention, and these are hygiene, cleaning, sanitation, and disinfection, sewage and human waste disposal, and trash management. So let's go ahead and get started with the first one, hygiene, and I'll see you on the next video. Okay, we got through one. Okay, was that okay? That was interesting, huh?
Yeah, it was, another thing we didn't mention, but there was a lot of unwanted pregnancies because they
Yeah.
didn't have birth control, so STDs were pretty rampant too.
Yeah, let's bring that up maybe in the hygiene section. Right there? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, and I'll try to repeat them if it's short. But yeah, if we need a longer one, but I'm going to try to keep moving through this. I'm just going to end the last part of it so I can actually, let me just go through this part again. So I'm just going to do it a little bit more excited because I was kind of a little somber on that one. I mean, somber for me, right? Okay. But, okay, so the 4 areas of disease prevention are really easy. It starts with hygiene, then it goes to cleaning, sanitation, and disinfection. Then you get to sewage and human waste disposal, and finally trash management. So we're going to go through all 4 of these today, and I'll see you on the next video where we're going to talk about hygiene first. Okay, there. All right, let's get started with hygiene. You good? All right, awesome. Let's see where we're starting with here, okay? Okay, we're back and we're talking about hygiene, and I'm going to give you kind of an overview of hygiene. When people think about hygiene, what do they think about? You know, brushing your teeth, combing your hair, taking a shower, stuff like that. Let me show you the list of what hygiene entails. Let me show you the list of what hygiene entails when it comes to emergency. Let me try that again. Let me show you the list of what hygiene entails when it comes to emergency preparedness. Look how big that is. It's not small. There's a ton of stuff there. You know, about 16 little things that we're going to be talking about. Okay? About 16 things we're going to be talking about. It's not about, it's 16 things, right? Okay, we're going to be talking about 16 areas of hygiene management. First of all, let's talk about water management. Do you remember Lisa was talking about dirty water? Probably the most important thing during an emergency on hygiene is water. You have to store clean water. You have to be able to have clean water sources so you can collect more water. You have to have water filtration like we taught you in earlier parts of this course where we teach you here at the store. Always water, water, water. It's probably the most important thing to get prepared for long-term emergencies before anything else. And with that in mind, we talk about the big tanks, about 2 gallons per day per person, at least 1 month, shoot for 3 months, figure out a way to get more and more water. When she talked about Haiti, that probably was the biggest culprit besides people being around each other, is water, right? Do you want to say anything else about that? By chance? Yeah, grab the microphone. I'll have you talk a little bit more about Haiti on water.
So Haiti hasn't always been known for the most straightforward, like, let's share our resources, right? So people who did have water were like the rich people. They were like in control of resources. Those people who didn't have water to do routine bathing, cleaning, water to clean their food. So dysentery became a death sentence. You couldn't clean a wound to save your life. I mean, unless we brought in bottled water somehow, because water was so valuable of a resource. And with these close quarters, like we mentioned before, you know, people are still going to have relations, and if you can't take care of things in that area, then that's going to lead to a bunch of complications there too. So water was just life or death. That's what it came down to.
And that's what it comes down to. That's what we talked to, you know, don't take water lightly, don't take food lightly, but water even more. That's how important water is. And that's kind of the basis for the rest of the hygiene, is just really good, clean water. In an emergency, a lot of times there's a ton of water. It's just hard to find clean water, right? Okay, look at Hurricane Katrina, plenty of water everywhere, right? Look at Hurricane Sandy, right? Plenty of water everywhere. But a lot of it polluted with sewage, polluted with, you know, chemicals, a whole bunch of things, salt water, everything else. When we talk about water, the first thing that comes to my mind is hand washing. Hand washing is one of the biggest ways to prevent disease during an emergency. Let me see what I wrote there. I can't even see what I wrote. Oh, okay. So why is that? No, I don't even want to say question. Okay, hand washing is one of the biggest ways we can prevent disease during an emergency. And I'm going to show you some of the examples of how that can come in handy. You can if you don't wash your hands, you're touching contaminated surfaces. You're touching contaminated surfaces. I'm glad we have some English majors in here. Okay. You're touching contaminated surfaces. You're coughing and sneezing into your hands. You're handling raw meats and contaminated foods. You're touching a toilet where there's urine and feces on your hands. You're touching rodent urine and feces, even dried. A lot of times you don't even know you're touching it. You touch the floor where a rodent used to be. You don't even know you're touching it, but it can get on your hands. And changing a diaper, and just the list goes on and on and on. There's so many ways that you can get germs on your hands that you can pass on to more and more people during an emergency. There's a CDC statistic that says that only 1 out of 3 people will go in the United States to wash their hands, and they use just water. Is it the other way? Just water, no soap, right? And they use just water, no soap. Okay, so 1 out of 3 people that just got out of the bathroom that you shake hands with, okay, did not wash with soap. What were we going to say?
Well, there's a number there that you'll know better than me as the person that doesn't even do that.
I want to hear this. So a number. Yeah, give me a second. Sorry, we might have to come back to this later because I got to keep going if that's okay with you. So I want. Okay, here, let's get you on the microphone.
Someone goes in there, you've all seen it, and they walk right out. It makes me want to say, "Excuse me, aren't you going to wash your hands?"
Yeah, and that's a good point. So 1 out of 3 wash their hands with just water, right? But how many people just walk out without washing their hands at all, right? So yeah, I see that all the time. So I wonder what that statistic really is. I mean, 1 out of 2 people, what do you think? What would you guys say? That don't even wash their hands at all in a public restroom. And at home, right? Yeah, don't grab the handle after. Yeah, at least 1 out of 10, but I would say it's more than that. I watch my kids and I tell them, wash your hands, and they turn on the water like that and then walk out. I go, soap, right? And I teach them how to do soap instead. Now,
Can I add one thing on that one?
go ahead.
So I'll teach proper hand hygiene, and we'll put this powder on people's hands and say, go wash your hands, come back. We'd use a black light to
Yeah.
check it out. And under rings, under watches is nasty. Under your fingernail beds, I mean, it's really hard
totally.
to properly clean it to begin with, but
Yep.
to not do it at all is not good.
Yep, let's go a little comment over here if you don't mind.
More over a question.
Yep, go ahead.
How are you going to cover to do this
Mhm.
in a bad environment so that whatever you're touching, you're not contaminating the on-off spigot or whatever it is you're going? You going to cover that?
Well, this whole course is about that.
I know,
right?
but you're going to cover some methodologies to do that.
Yeah, we're
I
talking.
took the gun class that you took, and they
Yeah.
brought their jugs out there for water to wash.
Yeah,
Remember that?
Yep.
Well, everybody's touching that.
yeah.
You know what?
And again, we're teaching principles here, and you follow the principles, you're going to be able to do all that. Does that make sense? Every family is going to be different, so start doing it in your family, right? Have them learn all this stuff. Soap is amazing, by the way. If you understand soap, if you understand the science of soap, it's pretty awesome. It allows you to, soap molecules dislodge dirt, oil, grease, and even fecal matter particles that cause disease and fecal matter particles and disease-causing germs they carry. Now, if you look at the science of why soap is unique because it has a hydrophilic and a hydrophobic side to it. Do you guys know what hydrophobic and hydrophilic means? It's a pretty big words, right? Hydrophilic, hydrophobic. What does phobic mean? Fear of, right? Afraid of, want to get away from something, right? So the one end of the soap is repelling water, while the other one, hydrophilic, attracts water. It creates what's called a micelle. If you were to see, I don't think I have a picture of it in this presentation, but if you look at this little slide right here, where it has a little ball and it has a little tail, okay? Inside that tail, if you can imagine a bunch of balls, okay? Just ball, 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 with a whole bunch of tails in the middle, right? What's happening is it's grabbing that particle, whether it's fecal matter, whether it's dirt or whatever else, grease, and it's actually picking it up and putting it in the middle of it where there's water all around the edges, and then you're able to wash it off because of the hydrophilic side of it. So it can pick up all the dirt, pick up all the grease, and then wash it off because soap is amazing. Does that make sense? That's how powerful soap is. I mean, when you look at it, it cuts grease, right? Do you know what it's made out of?
Fat.
Fat. How does that work, right? It's pretty amazing. And that's how powerful soap is. Worldwide, 20 to 60% of children's deaths from the most common diseases that cause deaths among children can be avoided simply by washing your hands with soap and water regularly. That's how powerful it is. And one of the reasons is because those little pieces of fecal matter, those pieces of grease and everything else, they house bacteria in it. So you're carrying around bacteria every time you don't wash your hands. Does that make sense? I'm going to show you guys a little bit more. A lot of people are worried about soap because soap can carry bacteria. I'm not super worried about it. Some people are. Let's talk a little bit about soap for those of you who want to be extra careful. A lot of people say if you're going to get a soap, get a liquid soap because now you're not touching the soap and putting it back down. Pretty smart idea, especially in public areas. At home, for some reason, I've never gotten sick. You can do what you want. What we do at my house is a little bit different. We have liquid soap, but we have bar soap, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. This right here are some of the soaps that we use. This one right here, just regular old Dove, is what I bought a ton of this, okay, years ago, trying to get prepared for emergencies. I'm working through this. I'm just getting rid of it. So my family's just using it up. Don't plan on buying it anymore, okay? This right here, who knows what it's made out of, right? It's probably made out of a ton of different chemicals. Since then, I've gone a lot more natural. I look at the ingredients, make sure I get good things. But when I buy soap, I look at the back and I go, okay, what does it have in it? Oh, it has essential oils. Oh, it has eucalyptus. It has this, it has that. Some of those things are antimicrobial a little bit. But what else these have, these two soaps have, for example, is they have coconut oil. Coconut oil, if you're not making it out of, lard or whatever else you're making it out of your soap out of, coconut oil is antimicrobial. It doesn't kill everything, but it kills a lot of things. So this is what we have for my emergency supply is antimicrobial hand soap and liquid soap. So you can see on the screen right there an example of a Petri dish where somebody used liquid soap and tested it for bacteria and solid soap and tested it for bacteria. And you can see what was growing on normal soap. When it comes to washing your hands, I'm going to give you kind of a couple rules. We're going to make this really easy. A lot of people say, do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Every time I do that in a public restroom at an airport, people look at me really weird. So this is the case. Just for 20 seconds, you're going to wash. When you're washing with soap, you're going to want to get the backs, the fronts, in between, anywhere you can, and get up to the wrist for 20 seconds and lather up. That's what you want to do to make sure you get everything off and then wash it off. That's the rule, 20 seconds. Is that pretty easy? We can make it a little more complicated, but I think that does it, right? Okay, awesome. When you do wash with soap, it's good to sanitize also because once you get rid of all those little particles on your hands, it doesn't mean that all the bacteria is gone. So when you sanitize, there's a lot of ways to do that. Some people like to go and use alcohol and they spray this on, right? Alcohol, there's controversies on it, right? Some people say it actually kills some of the good stuff and keeps it from going and creates super germs and whatever else. Better than nothing, right? Now this, if you guys want to smell this alcohol, it smells actually pretty good. Tell me what you think.
Smells fresh.
Yeah, it's one of my old companies. But this right here, we put essential oils in it, so it made it a little bit better. The other thing I like to do is when it comes to after I do soap, if I'm not going to use alcohol, which I don't prefer to use, I will use a thing called hypochlorous acid, which we talk about a little later in this course, where it's completely safe. It's about 120 times more potent than bleach, but it can kill the bacteria and not harm you, and it doesn't kill the good bacteria, which is amazing. The other thing I like to do is I like to take some of our liquid rubs, right? These things right here that have silver, but this is a special silver. I mean, it's been processed in a different way where it's more effective than regular ionized silver. This silver right here you put on your hands and then you could be walking around for about 6 hours, touching things, holding things, shaking hands, sneezing, whatever else, and it's still killing the germs on your hands. So I like to have these stored up for emergencies. Does that make sense? Okay, awesome. Let's get to bathing. And this has to do with regularly keeping dirt, bacteria, stench, and infections in check. And when you think about bathing and showering, have any of you been on a long camp out, like a really long camp out, where everybody else smells and you smell, but you can't smell them and they can't smell you because you all smell, right? And then you get home and somebody smells you who wasn't camping and they're just, oh man, you stink. And I do? Wow, I didn't know that. But the cool thing about it is, how does it feel when you first get in that shower? Oh my goodness, so refreshing, right? It's just so amazing just to be in that shower and wash out all the dirt and the sweat and everything else and get all the stuff out of your hair and get the grease out and everything else. It's just refreshing. Same thing during an emergency. It's good for the soul. It makes you feel good. And during an emergency, if the public utilities were turned off, there's a lot of ways that we could still bathe or shower outside of our regular bathrooms. Obviously, if the water's running, you use the regular bathroom, right? But you can use clear lakes, like nice clean lakes. You can use rivers. You can use a bathing tub, a little bin, a bathing tub like they used to do back in the 1800s. Say again? Oh. The Ganges? What's a Ganges? Oh, Ganges River. I thought a Ganges was a tub. I'm like, I've never heard of that. That's so funny. Not the Ganges. Or what's the other one? The Riverwalk in San Antonio? Don't do that one either, right? Yeah, I've heard stories about that one, right? Okay, you can do bathing tubs. You can do buckets. You can do camping showers, pressurized sprayers, or even use waterfalls and rain. When I go out into the desert and I do gun training, sometimes I just don't want to drive all the way home or drive, an hour to a hotel or whatever. I just sleep in my car. When I do that, I end up taking let me see if I can find one here. I end up taking a solar shower. And you can do the same thing with a black bucket and put water in it or whatever else, something that heats up the water. Now, with this solar shower, and I got a bunch of them. We sell them here at the store. I've got different ones at home I've tested out. You put this on the car and just leave it in the sun all day long. And then when you're done gun training, you just take it, put it in a tree or something like that. Take this little nozzle right here and put it on you. It is warm. It feels good. It's delicious. It's amazing. It just comes all over your body. There's other ways to do it during an emergency as well. If you needed to, these things I buy from Harbor Freight. I've got a bunch of them. I use them for fire extinguishers where I put a special liquid inside of it and I'm able to put out fires and keep them out using an encapsulating unit, right? Encapsulating liquid. But also I use this for insecticides. I use it for bathing if I need to. Anybody willing to get wet?
Sure.
Okay, seriously? Okay, take a look at this. I don't know if the camera can catch this, but here goes. That feels pretty good, huh? Okay, this thing right here can wash out little kids and everything while they're going, and it sprays it just well enough that this little half a gallon will just last for minutes and minutes and minutes while they're doing their hair and washing their face and everything else. Let's do a comment back here. Okay.
I learned off the internet that tank thing you have there in your picture on the slide, paint it black.
Yeah,
Same thing as
totally.
I learned that from one of these Trekker
Absolutely.
things, and I've made that exact thing, and I took one because I'm in that industry, sprayed it black so I've never used it.
It gets
but
warm.
it'll heat up the water.
Absolutely. Anything that's going to track the sunlight and keep the heat in, right? Black tanks, black buckets, anything like that. You got the idea. Sometimes we even take black plastic bags and just a big garbage bag, put water in and leave it in the sun. And there's a lot of ways to do it. In fact, you're leading me to the next slide where you can see the black tank just like you're talking about. Do you see that? And these are different ways of bathing or showering in warm water. You got a stove, fireplace, sun oven, solar shower like we were talking about, black trash bag, dark colored jug, dark shallow pool or tarp. You just put a black or blue tarp out and just leave the water kind of shallow there, and you got a warm little bath that you can take pretty easily. Let's talk about what to use when you're bathing. A lot of people have regular sponges in their sanitation kits. Have you ever smelt those sponges, like when you're washing dishes and everything, and then you end up putting them inside the microwave just to get rid of that smell, right? You know what I'm talking about? And by the way, hypochlorous acid, we're talking about a little bit later on, literally stops smelling. It kills bacteria that quickly. It's so powerful. Well, when it comes to avoiding the bacteria that can grow on normal bathing supplies, right, sponges and everything else, I have 2 suggestions for you guys that I love. And these are things I use at home. And that's a plastic loofah, and the other one's a silicone body scrubber. And I'll show you these, what they look like. These are ones we use at my house, and these are ones I have in my emergency kit. And I'm going to share with you what I like and what I don't like. So these right here do not gather bacteria as easily. This is going to do it a little bit more than these, the silicone, but the amount is so minimal that I'm not worried about it that much. What I've learned is when I get one of these loofahs, the plastic loofahs, if it's too big like this one, it has too much surface area, I have to use a ton more soap to be able to bathe. So I'm using a ton of soap just to get this thing to lather. When I get a smaller one that doesn't have as much surface area, it lathers up in a heartbeat. This size right here, this one, is the one I take camping with me when I have to do little, you know, what's called sponge baths, basically. Okay? So that's what the loofahs. Let me put these down. Now the silicone body scrubber, I've got 3 of them here. I like to test out everything before I teach people and tell them what they should be getting. This one right here is a little stiffer. My wife likes this one because she feels like it exfoliates a little bit better. This one right here, if you look at how small this is compared to this right here is not going to lather up as well as this one. This one, where it has more surface area, is going to lather up more. So it's kind of the opposite of the loofahs. Does that make sense? So this is the one I like because I don't like to keep putting soap on it. I put it on one time, especially with liquid soap. These things work amazing with liquid soap. It's a little bit harder with bar soap. But I like to lather it up, and then I like to do my whole body one time instead of having to keep putting soap on it. But you can find the one that works for you. But we have this in my emergency kits. I use it at home. It's just a good little way to go. I use both of these, the loofahs as well. Let's get a microphone.
What about organic sponges?
Organic sponges, like the regular sponge, like you know something, I used to use those years ago. I just haven't, and I'm guessing, I don't know is the answer. I don't know if they would gather bacteria or not, but I'm guessing they would. It's just, does anybody know by chance? Anybody have that answer? So I don't.
You're right.
So I'm guessing it would. So I can't figure out why it wouldn't, because I don't think it's antimicrobial. So that's a great question, and I don't have a complete answer.
If it did, we'd use them in the hospitals.
Yeah, the good point. If it did, we'd use them in the hospitals. Good point. And coming from somebody who does that, right? Awesome. Another thing I want to recommend is make sure during an emergency you actually take a bath or a shower before you go to bed. Why is that?
Contaminate your sleeping bag.
Yeah, you're going to contaminate things. How hard is it to wash a sleeping bag? It's easier to wash you than to keep washing the sleeping bag and your bedding and everything else. So if you take a bath before you go to bed, you're going to keep your sleeping area a lot more clean. Let's go into, can't see what this is, it's too far away. Okay, let's do that. The last piece of advice when it comes to bathing is I want to recommend that wherever you are bathing, keep that sanitized too. Make sure mold's not growing, fungus isn't starting to take place, bacteria isn't having its heyday. Make sure you keep whatever location you're using, whatever you are using to clean yourself, keep that clean as well. Let's get to laundry. You need to find ways to do your laundry. Has anybody lived in a third world country? Okay, awesome. Me too. Okay. In third world countries, a lot of times you don't have washing machines. What do you use? Yeah, buckets, right? You scrub it, right? You'd go in a bucket or in a sink or a little washboard or whatever you need to do to be able to get that down. Say again? A rock, yeah. Slap it against a rock, whatever you need to do. And the truth is, during a long-term emergency, when the utilities are out and even running water, you're probably going to have to find a way to do that long-term. Some of these ideas include getting a clothes washer, sinks, tubs, a plunger washer. A plunger washer, I don't know if you know what those are, but it's like really a plunger. And you put it in kind of like a bucket thing and you go and you're just agitating the clothes or whatever's inside, just like you put in just like if you were to put it in a washing machine, right? You got portable tubs or basins, buckets or kitchen pots. You have washboards and ringer washers and garbage bag agitation and garbage bag. Let's try that again. We have washboards and ringer washers. Did I do that in the next one? I thought I did, but I don't. We have washboards and ringer washers, which I suggest everybody get at least a washboard. We have some at home. Here's a ringer washer just to show you guys what those are. This is right here. It's pretty cool because you can wash inside a little bucket or basin, put it through here, and it'll actually kind of squeegee it out. And we'll talk about that in just a minute a little bit more. You also have garbage bag agitation, where you actually put it inside a contractor bag or some type of thick bag, and you just kind of move it around with all the soap and water in there just to wash everything off, and then rinse it off, and then you can even rinse it off in a different bag if you needed to. And then there's obviously what you talked about with rivers, right? You get a big rock and you just slap it just like the movies, right? Just and then slap, 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 and then you think you're cool because that's really cool, right?
Tears up your clothes. But
Yeah, it turns up your clothes. Yeah, especially with the rough rocks, right?
yeah, my dad served in India. And he sent
Let's get a microphone here.
My dad served in India, and he sent his laundry out to the locals one time,
Yeah,
and they beat him on rocks. And he said it came back almost in pieces.
yeah.
Khakis.
The funny thing about it is, today with the kids, they're like, it's stonewashed. It's cool. It's got holes. It's like, what was that commercial they said? Or the kids, they have their pants down to here and there's holes all over it. They said, with all the money you save, you can buy pants that fit you without holes. But yeah, it's kind of funny. When you're looking at laundry, just remember to store enough soap. Let me just put this down. When I was in Brazil, we actually used bar soap to be able to do laundry. You can do, there's these little, like a fabric type, laundry type soap, if you've seen those. There's liquid soap. There's a bunch of different things you can use. With that in mind, if you're in the middle of an emergency and you don't have any more soap to do laundry, you can always use lemon, right? Lemon juice. You can also use white vinegar. You can create soap by getting things like soapwort or yucca or can't even read or horse chestnuts, and all of those actually can create the lather to be able to help you wash things out of your clothes and whatever else you're using and whatever else you're washing. Let's go comment right here.
Is it okay to wash in a river? Is it environmentally acceptable?
During an emergency?
Anything, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, during an emergency, I mean, if it's that bad, nobody's going to say anything. I wouldn't put it in a really, really dirty river, right? If it's got more pollutants than anything else, because who knows what you're going through. It could be a hurricane or whatever else, and it could be runoff from the sewage plant. I would just be a little bit careful with that. Let's go right here.
I would think it would be better maybe to get like a bucket from the river, because what I have seen is that if somebody is washing clothes and then you are down the hill, you're
Yeah.
getting all that dirty water.
Yeah.
Or you cannot drink it, or you cannot use
Absolutely.
it because it's already dirty.
Yeah, and that's a considerate thing to do. So I think you're absolutely right. Just grab the water, go somewhere else, wash it off. And thank you for bringing that up. It's a really good idea. It's something I didn't think of. So thank you for both of you. Let's go one more comment over here.
One of my neighbors was a CEO at the what do you call it? The sewage plant
Yeah.
in the south part of the valley. And I asked him once about what would happen if an earthquake cuts down the water and people can't flush their toilets. You know they would anyway. People
Yeah.
will flush their toilets.
Oh, absolutely.
Nobody's ever trained us what to do.
No, we're going to talk
Yes.
about that in some of
Yes.
the upcoming parts here.
Yes, but he told me that when that time comes, they will just open the floodgates and dump all the sewage into the Jordan River.
Oh, yeah.
So you might keep that in mind before you plan on doing laundry or bathing or anything in it.
That is a really, really good point. Yeah. Let's go one more comment here.
And along the lines of what you were saying about the contamination going downstream,
Yep.
another thing is if you're like fishing, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people will go to the lakes or to the rivers
Yep.
to obtain their food. It's the same thing. Like a fish may look normal on the outside, but once you consume it
Yeah.
and it's swallowed all the gunk,
Yeah.
and that's another thing to consider.
Exactly. And especially if it swallows a sock. I mean, that would be really bad. And I've got a theory about that. You want to hear my theory? Have you guys ever noticed that you put 2 socks into a dryer and then one comes out? Okay, here's my theory. Someday, some smart person is going to create some type of machine with AI that's going to be able to figure out where all those ships and planes went down in the Bermuda Triangle. And when they pull all those ships and planes out of the water and put them back on land, they're going to find all those socks that disappeared out of all our dryers. That is, and the one that went in the fish as well. Okay, they're going to find all of those. Exactly. Sockeyed salmon. That's really funny. Okay, he just took my joke and one-upped me. Are you allowed to do that here? No? I'm the one teaching here. It's my joke. But that was funny. Sockeyed salmon. I got to use that next time. Okay, so when we're talking about washing clothes and washing everything else, you want to get the water out as quickly as possible. So I put a couple ideas here up on the screen. You want to wring it out, but when you do that, it stretches. You can press, you can fold it, you can roll it out. You can use a wringer washer like I was talking about, like I showed you just a minute ago. I'll show you again. The wringer washer. Anybody want to put their fingers in here? It's really cool. It kind of stretches your fingers. But this is a good way to do it as well. And another way to do it is to spin it. There's little machines you can buy where you can actually spin it. You know, you can put the clothes in there and just kind of gets all the water off to the side. The faster you get the water out, the less bacteria and smell that you have as you get that water out. So you're able to dry it a lot quicker. When you're drying your laundry, obviously you got to find a good way to do it. You can use clotheslines and clothespins, and I brought some examples here. These are things I have at home. As far as clotheslines go, I just use paracord, and I got a ton of paracord at home. You can use rope, you can use twine, you can use anything you want to for a clothesline. I have a ton of little clothespins, and these ones right here aren't the little cheap ones, the little plastic ones that break. These things can last, 10, 20,000 years, right? And with that in mind, you can see they're pretty strong and they hold the clothes pretty well. Let's go a quick comment right here.
Best clothespins especially for expensive garments, and if it's going to be windy,
Yep.
are tarp clips. It won't let go.
That's a great idea. Tarp clips. Thank you. That was an awesome idea. Thank you for sharing that. You also got drying racks. You also got drying racks. And this is an example right here of a drying rack that we actually do use at home. Do you see that right there? And you can put this in the house. You can put one outside the house. You can have bigger ones. You can have smaller ones. If it's raining outside or really humid, you might want to have something like this that you can put inside your house and put it in a place where the south-facing window here in the United States can get the sun in and start drying it from inside the house. Anything you need to do to be able to get those clothes dry. If you do put it out in the sun, just remember that the clothes are probably going to fade, but UV is a great way of killing bacteria. So while it's fading, it's actually being cleaned as well at the same time. Say again? I don't think, yeah, during an emergency, again, go back, go back to those kids that have the faded stonewashed jeans with the holes in there. You're just taking up your level of coolness at that point, right? Okay, when you got the faded clothes. If you can use airflow, like wind or cross breezes, and that can even work inside a house, by the way. So again, if you can't put it outside, you open two little doors, one in the front, one in the back, put the clothes right in the middle, just let the air go through the house. You could be drying your clothes in that way as well. You could put it under a canopy when raining, or like we've been talking about, you can do it indoors anytime you need to. Next is oral hygiene. Let me talk a little bit about this. Let me put this back real quick. When it comes to oral hygiene, there's a lot of things we should be doing that a lot of people don't do. Number one, obviously, you got to do your tooth flossing, right? Everybody knows that. You got your toothbrush, right, that you should be doing. What I like to do and what my family uses at home is we use toothpaste that actually has antibacterial silver in it. And here's an example. Let me see if I can find one here. Where is it? Thank you. Okay, this is the one that we use at home, and this is one of the things we sell in the store here. This right here, it tastes amazing. Okay, it cleans really well. The beautiful part about it is it has a really healthy silver in there, and silver is antimicrobial. So when I get done brushing my teeth, I don't rinse my mouth. I actually just go to bed with all of it in my mouth. Spit out the extra, just leave it in there. But what is that doing to the toothbrush after I use this with the toothbrush? It's cleaning the toothbrush. So now we don't have more bacteria going in my mouth later. If any of you guys have problems with halitosis, which I've had, okay, where you just can't seem to get rid of that, a lot of it has to do with what you're eating, obviously, in the gut. But if you want to start getting rid of it, one of the things you can do is obviously brush, floss, take care of your mouth, good oral hygiene. But take a good tongue scraper and get the bacteria off your tongue. If you ever see that white film on there, just get it off. And I do that all the time. It's kind of fun to see what comes off. You're like, that's really awesome. Look, it's all moving. It's all growing. That's amazing. But there's a lot of things you can take off your tongue, and you'd be surprised how much comes off. The other thing I'm going to recommend is quit using stuff like Listerine. Quit using anything that has alcohol in it. Alcohol kills the bacteria that's killing the bad stuff. And so you want to go to a dry mouthwash. I use like Biotin, but there's a bunch of them out there. Something that doesn't have the alcohol that's killing the good stuff, that's killing the bad stuff. Make sense? Okay. In fact, if you do a little internet search, like I have, and do some good studies, what I found is that alcohol mouthwash is actually probably causing cavities in the end, because it's killing the good bacteria that's killing the bad bacteria. And the other thing also is if you dry out your mouth, like when you sleep with your mouth open, and your mouth dries out, you're also killing that bacteria which causes cavities. I mean, have you ever thought like sleeping with your mouth open causes cavities, right? But you want to keep the good bacteria in there at all times to be able to kill the bad bacteria. Let's go to toilet hygiene. This one's a fun one because this is what, 2020, COVID, right? Everybody ran to get toilet paper. The most important thing in the world was toilet paper, right? Toilet paper and bottled water. Nothing more important than that, right? Toilet paper and bottled water. When it comes to toilet paper, just get a ton of it. Let me ask you this. If you got a whole truckload of toilet paper, which I don't recommend you do because you'd have to get a truckload of space to put all that toilet paper in, when is that toilet paper going to go bad? No, it's good. Keep it out of the wet, right? Okay. Okay.
The Kleenexes that you get and the toilet paper, if you leave it for years,
Yeah.
it
Disintegrates a little bit, right?
displays.
Okay. So if you get good toilet paper and don't leave it for too many years, how's that?
Yes.
Is that okay? Awesome. So the point is this: get yourself a lot of toilet paper and put it away. And if you need to, rotate it, right? But I have a lot of toilet paper at home. I keep it out of moisture. I keep it out of humidity, and it lasts a long time. Okay, it's all wrapped up. It's double wrapped. There's a wrap inside and a wrap outside the toilet paper I have. And I just have like literally years worth of toilet paper, and I could just use that anytime I want to, rotate it in and out, right? Okay, And it's awesome because I'm gonna use it someday. I might as well get it when it's cheap instead of waiting until hyperinflation hits it and it gets really expensive. But just get a lot of toilet paper. During an emergency, you are going to be glad. If you're a guy, you're going to be glad. If you're a woman, you're going to be more glad. If you're a guy married to a woman, you're going to be even more glad that you did that for your wife because she will be happy. And when the woman is happy, everybody's happy, right? Okay, it is true. You know, the thing about it is you got to remember that there is a psychological part of emergency preparedness as well. And we need things that make us comfortable, and toilet paper is one of them. Absolutely, great to barter. When it comes to running out of toilet paper, that's where you got to figure out what to do next. And one of the things I recommend is have rags at home. And if you need to, this is it's called family cloth. Okay, it's reusable toilet paper or cloth wipes, they call it as well. This is an example of one right here. You can actually put this on the toilet paper roll if you need to. And these right here are just little cloths. And you do your business and you wipe up and you're done. When you're done, you stick it in a bucket. And this bucket is for poopy stuff. You're not going to put regular clothes in it. So you wipe, bucket. Okay. Somebody else wipes, bucket. Okay. Inside this bucket, you have a solution, and I recommend hypochlorous acid, like we're going to talk about in a little while, where that can be sitting inside here with water and hypochlorous acid, and it's sanitizing while you're waiting to wash it. And while it's sanitizing, it's killing most everything in there. So by the time you get in there and you have to use your hand with a glove on it, right? You get in there and you just agitate it and get all the poop off and get soap and everything else, clean it off, put it on your little clothesline, whatever you need to do. It's going to be a lot more clean and a lot more sanitary by the time you get to it. We're going to poop. That's a technical term, poop, okay? So might as well do it right during an emergency. One of the things I also like to recommend is get yourself a little squeeze bottle, a little Perry bottle. And if you can do a homemade bidet before you wipe, it makes it even easier to be able to keep up with things. If you run out of... Go ahead.
Those garden sprayers that have the big handle that you squeeze and it,
Yeah.
You could adjust a needle point stream if you want.
Yeah.
Or a wider spray. They're very stingy on water.
Yeah.
They're very conservative of water. They have multiple uses.
Mm-hmm.
You should have one with clean. I use sterile saline water for wound cleaning.
Oh, absolutely.
The first few seconds of wound cleaning matter the most.
Yep.
And if you have it ready, without trying to pick out contaminants with your dirty hands, you could spray them out with a needle-like spray that would flush out a wound.
Thank you. So let's take that back to poop. Okay.
Yes,
so the thing about it is when you're talking about that, if you do have some type of spray bottle, I think I've got a couple here. There's different ways of doing it. You got the Perry bottle, but there's other ways of doing it. Okay, there's plenty of ways. You can be creative during an emergency to be able to wash your area, basically. I'll call it the area, to make things less poopy. So thank you for the idea. Here's a couple ideas that you can use if you do run out of toilet paper, you have no cloth. You can always use leaves like people do in different places of the world. You can use snow, ash, sawdust, newspaper, old socks, old rags, wet stones if you need to, and the list goes on and on. Believe me, during an emergency, when you need to wipe, you'll find a way to do it, and you'll find very creative ways to do it because you just don't want that hanging around, right? Okay. So don't use pine cones. Is that from experience by chance? No. Yeah, so maybe not pine cones or sea anemones or anything like that. Okay, yeah, just stay away from those. What? The 3 clamshells. Or the 3 clamshells. Tell me about that. From Demolition Man. From Demolition Man. Okay, I haven't seen it. So, okay, I probably need to watch that, huh? Let's go ahead and go right here.
So, jesting aside,
yeah,
3 pieces to scrape.
Yeah.
And you can find YouTubes out there of people giving reviews on how that feels. So, I mean, reusable, pretty easy to clean.
Does it feel good or bad? I'm curious now. You got
There were mixed reviews. It wasn't the best thing ever, but he didn't die or get a laceration or anything.
okay.
So.
Well, you're talking to a Greek here. I'm proud of my heritage.
Yeah, you should be.
I'm going to throw away my toilet paper. I'm going to throw
Oh.
my.
Funny-
I'm going to pottery pieces, man. This is awesome.
They would write. What would they write? They'd write something on it, or they'd use the pottery pieces that like had like the people they didn't like
Yeah.
written on it, and they'd wipe with that. Fun other piece of Greek history.
Yeah, I can't name any names, but I'm sure everybody in this world, at least in the United States, would put a politician's name on there and use it. Some politician from one side or the other, right? Something like that. Okay, let's get to cosmetic.
Know what leaves are
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, so she mentioned if you're going to use leaves, make sure you use poison oak, poison ivy, and stinging nettle. Is that right? Okay. Those are the three you should not use. Don't take me seriously right now. Okay. But yeah, you should know exactly what you're using, and don't leaves the three, let it be, right? Okay. Don't mess around with things that are going to cause more problems on your hiney end than solutions. Thank you for bringing that up because I would have missed that. So thank you for bringing that up. Let's get to cosmetic hygiene, and this is where most people focus when it comes to hygiene. This is where they talk about skincare routines. And I apologize. This is not where they talk about bathing and everything else. So let me back it up. Okay, so let's get to cosmetic hygiene. There's a lot of things that we can take care of here as well, such as skincare, I can't even say routines. Hold on a sec. Routines. Stretch my mouth. Okay. Skincare routines, hair cutting or hair cutting kits. Now this is kind of interesting. I'll show you this. I brought it. This right here is my hair cutting kit. Several years ago, I've got two of them. This is one of them. Okay. Several years ago, I was thinking, if there were an emergency, I'd have to probably cut my own hair and cut my kids' hair and everything else. So guess what I started doing? I cut my own hair. Sometimes I mess up horribly, but I've gotten to the point where I can do almost all of it, and my wife has to just clean up a little bit. But this is me. This is me cutting my own hair. And thank you. Okay. But I figured if I'm going to have to learn it during emergencies, I'd rather have pain now, gain later, than gain now and pain later. So I'll just make myself a little bit more uncomfortable now to be able to get comfortable later. Does that make sense? Okay, awesome. Did you have a comment? Let's go ahead and go back there.
Some of you are older than I am, but my dad served in World War II.
Yeah.
And to make a little bit extra cash, he took up hair cutting from fellow GIs.
He took up what?
Hair cutting.
Hair cutting, yeah.
And my question is, and maybe some of you have seen this, but he used to cut our hair all the time as kids.
Yeah.
And he had a hand-operated clipper that looked like a grass trimmer.
Totally, yep.
Do they still make those? Did anybody know that?
That would be a great thing to get.
And it was basically the same head of what you have on electric that you can't.
And you can shave.
And he would cut our hair with that device. I have never seen one. Never looked for one, but I was just curious if some of you more mature
something?
people
Thank you. I think I'm looking for that for myself.
have ever seen that because there's no battery involved.
Yeah, a lot of times I try to figure out how to get away from batteries. So we do have scissors and everything else. And of course, if you grew up in the 70s, 80s, we have a bowl that fits our heads. And then we can just cut all the way around it and create that bowl cut we used to have, right? It's perfect. And then I got a friend of mine, and this is kind of funny. He was older. He was probably 80 years old when I was talking to him, and he had a bald head. Okay, it's like barely anything, just a couple of hairs and everything like that. And he said he got me on this, and I was like, "Oh, you stinker." He said, "I just got back from the hair cutting place, right? And they charged me $50 for a haircut." I'm like, $50? Like you only have two hairs, and everything like that. And I go, $50? I go, that's ridiculous. $50? I would have done it for you for free. I said, why do they charge you so much? That's robbery. They shouldn't be doing that, taking advantage of an old man like you. That's just not fair and everything like that. And he goes, yeah. I go, well, why did they charge you $50? And he said, well, there was a finder's fee. They had to find the hair. Okay, got it. Okay. Anyways, oh, he found it right there. Is this on Amazon? Yeah. $17, $18. Yeah, right there. Okay, it's I can't see without my glasses. What is it?
Hold on.
Okay,
How much is it, or was it?
18 bucks. What's it called?
It's Nikou is the brand, but it's a Nikou hair trimmer.
Hair trimmer.
It's
So-
a hand classic clipper barber stainless steel manual haircut.
Wow. So hand classic barber. Yeah, 18 bucks. I think that's on my list now. Thank you. So that's a really good idea. Let's go comment back here.
In an emergency, we could trade. You
Yeah.
know, if I have food and you can cut my hair, well, I
Yeah.
give you some food if you cut my hair.
Yeah, if you're going to give me food, I'll cut your hair. Yeah, exactly. But no, you're right, and that's part of our course that we talk about a little later on, where we talk about trading skills, products, and everything else. So thank you for bringing that up. So besides hair cutting, we also have nail care. We have shaving. So I have a ton of extra razors, and I don't go through razors very quickly. I keep them for a while. I use one for several months, but I've got just a ton of extra razors. Why not, right? You're going to use them anyways. Stick them away, put them away. Lotions, makeup, other cosmetic hygiene. Then there's feminine hygiene. And we're going to go through some ideas here. These are things my wife actually does use to test out and everything else. She tells me about it because I don't have the opportunity, okay? And she talks about disposable feminine. She on this list right here, we have disposable feminine. When you're talking about, let me try this again. Whew. When you're talking about feminine hygiene, obviously, if you can store up disposable feminine hygiene before an emergency, if you can store, let me try again. When we're talking about feminine hygiene, if you can store up a whole bunch of disposable feminine hygiene, stuff you use today anyways, might as well store it up. You know, get all the little things you need. Now, when I was a little kid, I found those little pads. I didn't know exactly what they were for, but I was a little kid, and I found out my mom brought them home, and she was taking the groceries out of the car, and I saw this little box, and I opened up because I was curious, and they all had little stickers on them. And I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. So while she was getting all her groceries outside, I took them all and I stuck them on the ceiling of the kitchen. And I just put them everywhere, and I was like, so cool. Like that, until she saw what I had done, and I didn't hear the end of it. When she explained to me what they were as a little kid, she said, you go back to the store and get me new ones. That was the most embarrassing thing I ever did in my whole life. It was scary. I mean, it was super scary for a little kid going, what is that for? And I had to go ask for them and go get them. Do that to a kid, they'll never do that again. As part of the feminine hygiene, I recommend that you get a Perry bottle. And if you need to put white vinegar or whatever in there, to anything to help out, you know, clean off a little bit, you can if you need to. Okay. Thoughts? Some people say it's bad.
What was that?
No, the vinegar.
It can change your pH. So
Yeah, that's what I've heard. So I heard I don't want to be too graphic here. Inside is probably not the best thing. Outside is okay. So that's what I've heard. Okay. So let me go back to that part. I'll just delete it because that could cause some problems. So another thing another thing people should get for feminine hygiene is get a good Perry bottle to be able to wash things off, just be able to make things cleaner down there. That was so dumb. To make things cleaner down there. Huh? Okay. Is there a better way to say that? I'm embarrassed. I'm still going through the.
No, I think that there's people who might substitute that and might push more bacteria up.
Yeah.
But you want to get it out. So
Get
it's
it out.
just to keep it external and not mess with going things up.
Okay, let me try that again. Thank you for bringing that up. So another thing you should get for feminine hygiene, for cleaning the outside especially, is a good Perry bottle to be able to squeeze and use water or any type of cleaning solution like with soap and water, vinegar and water, whatever for the outside. There's also reusable menstrual pads, and I'll show you some right here. These are my wives. My wives. These are all my wives. I wish I only have one. Okay, let me try that again. Then there's also reusable menstrual pads, and this is my wife has these for emergencies. These are two of them that she uses that she can just rotate and clean off anytime she wants to. And another thing that she uses are these menstrual discs or cups. She actually uses this on a normal basis still. She says it's comfortable. It works pretty well. And it catches the blood out. And then when you're ready, you just pop it out. It has a little thing to pull out. And you can get the blood out as well. There's menstrual panties. There's menstrual panties you can use. There's extra rags. There's a whole bunch. Let's try this again. There's menstrual panties. There's extra rags you can use. You just got to be creative during an emergency if you run out of all the normal supplies that you would use for menstruation or for feminine hygiene. You just have to be creative when it comes to knowing what to use or what you would use for menstruation or for feminine hygiene.
Can I add one thing on that one?
Yeah, go for it.
Maybe to consider having pregnancy tests and urinary tract infection tests and things like that, so you can kind of treat things as you go too.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing to put in our first aid section, right?
Yeah.
Things
yeah.
that we can put in there. But pregnancy
sure.
test is really
That would be
good as
important
well.
to know if you were pregnant.
Absolutely, especially with everything you went through in Haiti, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There was a lot
Awesome.
of that, yeah.
Let's go ahead and do a comment back here.
Cranberry pills are great to keep on hand for
Say it in the
UTIs.
mic. Say.
Cranberry pills are great to keep on hand for UTIs.
Okay, awesome. That's really good. Cranberry, and you can drink cranberry also, right? And that helps.
Pills are easier and more concentrated.
So the pills of cranberry pills. Wow, that's a new one for me. Thank you so much. Yeah, I didn't even know about the cranberry pills. Thanks. You guys are educating me on some pretty cool stuff here. Let's talk a little bit more about feminine hygiene. We always want to prevent cross-contamination. So like we talked about, use a peri bottle to help stay clean. Wash in a place that's not going to contaminate common area. Wash in a place that's not going to contaminate common areas. Safely discard used disposable feminine products or burn them in a fire. If you're using reusable feminine products, soak soiled I can't even say it, man. I'm starting to get tired. Whew. Okay, water. I'm going to do water. Thank you. I've been going all day without eating much.
I have chocolate.
I have ADD and I'm hyper. You give me chocolate, you guys aren't going to be able to keep up with my mouth. Okay. If you're using reusable feminine products, soak soiled I said it twice, didn't I? Feminine products. Okay, I'll just figure out how to do this a different way. If you're going to use reusable feminine products, if they get soiled, put them in a separate bucket and soak them just like we talked about with the poopy cloths and everything else. Keep it separate from everything else until you're able to wash it. And again, use hypochlorous acid or some type of sanitizer, disinfector that's able to clean out the bacteria while it's soaking. Now the embarrassing one. Okay, we're going to talk about sexual hygiene. You want to keep your genital areas clean. You want to communicate any infections you're seeing. You want to communicate any infections you're experiencing. You want to stay loyal to a spouse or to one person because you don't want to take a chance of spreading diseases. Store up birth control items ahead of time. Use antibacterial lubricants if you need to. For example, coconut oil, which is a really good one to use. And after you have sexual intercourse, make sure to clean up, discard, or burn any used items properly so that you're not spreading any more bacteria or disease. Let's get to infant, toddler, and elderly hygiene. Just like other hygiene, you're going to want to wash hands. Just like other hygiene, you're going to want to help elderly people who aren't able to do it for themselves or little children who aren't able to do it for themselves to wash hands, to brush teeth, to bathe regularly, to cut hairs to cut hair and nails, to urine management, feces management, and then the list goes on. Whatever you normally would do today with an infant or with an elderly person, you're going to want to imagine doing that in an emergency situation. You're going to want to store the right items for the infants and for the elderly as well, including disposable diapers, baby wipes, wipies, anything for rash prevention that you normally use, reusable cloth diapers if you run out of disposable diapers, plastic or rubber cover pants, diaper pins, and also reusable bedwetting cloths or pads. That's what it was. Including reusable bedwetting pads that you can put underneath the sleeping area. Let's go a comment over here.
I can see the use of large amounts of disposable diapers an absolute nightmare
Yeah,
because there's no garbage pickup
yeah,
when things are that bad.
exactly.
It would be much better to store large amounts of flannel, even single ones or I should say just pieces of cloth to fold.
Exactly.
Would be the easiest to wash, the easiest to dry, and then we'll talk about the sanitation
Absolutely.
issues later. But
Exactly.
disposable diapers would be a nightmare.
Absolutely. Now, if you're talking about a short-term emergency, right, then that's okay. But if you're talking about a long-term emergency where there is not going to be any trash pickup anytime soon, right, different story. That's where we have ways of taking care of our little kids if we need to, right, with a diaper cover right here, diapers that go inside, and these can be used over and over and over during an emergency. So great idea. Thank you. Just like we talked about with the poopy items, just like we talked about with the feminine hygiene, same thing goes with any soiled diapers or anything else when you're taking care of infants or older elderly people. Same thing goes when you're talking about little children or elderly people. You want to keep it in a separate bucket and make sure you keep things very sanitized and separate. First aid hygiene, you want proper hand washing, clean and with first aid hygiene, you want to make sure that you wash your hands like normal. You want to make sure that you wash your hands like you normally would. You want to be able to clean and disinfect wounds. You want to be able to clean and disinfect wounds. You want to be able to clean and sorry guys, I'm getting a little tired. Blood sugar going down. Maybe I will take you up on that in just a second.
We got survival tabs.
Can somebody grab me a survival tab? Just a couple survival tabs. That would be awesome. So I'll grab a survival tab. It's got a whole bunch of vitamins and stuff in it. So it'll keep me going.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Yes. Okay. You want to be able to clean and disinfect wounds properly. You want to use sanitized equipment, use sterile supplies, you want to make sure your first aid supplies are organized and simple, and dispose of used gloves. Just one. Or 5. That's good. Thank you. Okay. Let me just do this real quick. Can you give me some more water too, if you don't mind?
Marcel, can I add something on that while you're chewing those up? On the clean and disinfect wounds, you can wash your wounds with any potable water, any water that you would drink. Never use river water, stream water, lake water, or anything else to clean your cuts. You're just pouring infection into those. So that's really important. And then make sure you have good irrigation supplies to irrigate your wounds. Really good, because you need a lot of volume, the right amount of pressure, and the right solution to properly clean those wounds to keep them from getting infected. That will be mission number 1 in your first aid kit.
Absolutely, and it goes back to clean water, what we were talking about before. The most important thing you can have is good, clean water. Let's go ahead and do a comment right there.
So the Perry bottle, would that be good for washing the wounds then, because you've got some pressure and clean water.
Yeah. It's hard to describe. You want about 10 psi, which is about like if you're pushing that bottle, not too hard, not too soft, but you want enough pressure where it's not going to damage the tissue, but enough to wash it out. From like, if I cut my arm here, I want to wash it that way so I'm not pouring bacteria back into it.
Yeah, get up to, come
Yeah.
up here. So if you're going to be talking.
So
'Cause we use syringes. There's a lot of things you can use, but she's
Right.
right. You don't want to go so hard it damages it, and so soft it doesn't clean
So
it.
if I had a little syringe, you know, like what you give medicine to kids, that's going to come out more forceful than if I had it like one of these 60
Big ones.
cc syringes.
Yep.
So you'd want to use something maybe a little bit bigger, like a 60. But if you didn't have a syringe, that's perfect. A water bottle that you drink that's squeezable, that's perfect.
Yep.
Just make sure you're squeezing it hard enough to clean that wound properly.
Yeah. You can use spray bottles. You can use a whole bunch of things. But she's got a good point. You want to make sure you go to clean water. That's why you need to store up lots of clean water before an emergency. Because if you do go to a pond, you do go to some type of river source, you do have chemicals, you have bacteria, you have a whole bunch of stuff. You don't know what you're putting in that wound. And you do not want to mess around with wounds during an emergency when you cannot go to the hospital, when you don't have a doctor, when you don't have an ambulance, when you don't have EMTs showing up at your house. So just make sure you're just really, just make sure you take care of your first aid hygiene really well. And okay, go ahead.
When I said seconds count, here's what you could do in advance so that you use up very few seconds to be ready. When you're pressure canning something, I pressure can purified water with 0.9% salt, and that's a proper osmotic pressure for saline solution. Pressure can it for 90 minutes and it's sterile. It's sitting on the shelf, it's cool, it's ready to go.
Awesome, thank you. Appreciate it. So just to wrap up this part of it, remember if you have any soiled PPE, personal protective equipment, right? Any gloves, any gowns, anything that gets soiled with blood or whatever during an emergency, during first aid use, just make sure you dispose of it properly, burn it, whatever you need to do so you don't spread on any diseases or infections to other people by not doing that. Let's get to food safety hygiene. It's one of the biggest reasons for spreading diseases during an emergency. So make sure you're storing your food properly. You clean your food properly. You cook your food properly. You make sure that there's no cross-contamination where you're cutting up some chicken on one side and then you end up going over here and touching some food, coming back to the chicken, touching a counter, whatever else, and it's getting into other food and into other places where disease can spread. Keep tableware items clean, keep the kitchen clean, and prevent rodents, and all this will help prevent rodents, and all of this is going to help. Did I just drink the whole thing? Oh, no, I didn't. And all this is going to help prevent rodents and insects from infiltrating. Thank you. And all this is going to help prevent rodents and insects from infiltrating your house during an emergency. The next one is respiratory hygiene. The next one is respiratory hygiene, which is also one of the biggest reasons for the spread of disease during an emergency. That includes coughing. That includes coughing where people don't use a tissue or an elbow to be able to cough and they just cough on top of people, right? That includes coughing. That includes coughing, sneezing, not disposing of tissue properly. You want to avoid close contact with anyone who's sick. You want ventilation during an emergency where you can get some clean air and what did I put there? Where you can get some clean air and oxygen coming into your house or anywhere you're at. It'll help clear out foul smells. And maybe if you're able to do this and you have electricity or whatever else, you can use air filters like we have at our house to be able to get some of the bad stuff out of the air as quickly as possible. When it comes to pets, pets are awesome because they're good companions and livestock can provide food during an emergency. But if you don't keep the hygiene on them as well, they can help spread disease. For example, regular grooming, regular bathing, keeping pet areas clean, providing clean water, providing clean food, and parasite or insect control. Or parasite and insect control, even with your animals, even with your pets or animals. This one's a big one, vector hygiene. What is a vector? You guys, have you all heard about vector? Have you heard the name vector before? Vector has to do with any type of organism, any type of organism that can transmit, a vector has to do with any type of organism that can transmit disease during an emergency, whether that's a virus or bacteria or some type of parasite, from one host to another host. That includes mosquitoes, ticks, mites, fleas, flies, lice, cockroaches, ants, bed bugs. I said mites, right? Okay, that includes mosquitoes, ticks, mites, fleas, flies, lice, cockroaches, ants, bed bugs, mice, rats, bats, snakes, grasshoppers, and even those spiders, wasps, and scorpions aren't technically vectors because they don't spread disease. Those are probably good to get out as well. So as part of this, you're going to want to secure your surroundings. You're going to eliminate holes and entry points, whether it's using caulking, foam, steel wool in different holes, mesh to be able to keep mice from coming in or anything else, or window and door screens. Can somebody put a note that I need to change that? Just text me on that. This is going to be on the vector hygiene windon.
Write that down as a cool new product.
Yeah, it's a windon. Exactly. It's the windon. The thrivalist windons.
Now say it right for the
Yeah,
the
that's a
video.
good point. And just to have good windows or door screens. You want to keep doors closed when possible, clean up food crumbs, avoid open food containers, limit any standing water so mosquitoes and other things don't breed. And check your body for ticks or other insects if you go into grassy woodland areas and come back into the house, especially during tick season. So I ended up bringing a whole bunch of ideas of things you can use for vector control, but we're going to kind of break them into sections. There's the first section is chemicals. There's a whole bunch of chemicals you could use during emergencies. I've got little foggers here. I've got little sprayers. I don't know if you guys have used 7 before. It's a little bit more natural, right? But it kills things like crazy out in the garden and a whole bunch of different insects without messing up your whole vegetable garden. I've got the heavy duty stuff, right? That kills pretty much everything. I like to limit that. I don't love to have that, but I've got a bunch of them. Here is, you got repel. This is, you got the mosquito sprays. This one has DEET in it. And DEET is not my favorite. It's the most popular. Everybody uses DEET. It smells, you go camping, everybody knows that you got mosquito repellent on. But there's better ones than this. For example, here is picaridin, which is my favorite as far as a chemical goes, not natural. There's a better one I have for natural. What is it? No, permethrin is different because you're going to put that on clothes. You're going to put it on a tent. You don't want to put it on yourself ever. But permethrin is great. It's wonderful. I've got different types of permethrin you can spray, okay, on the outside of tents, on the outside of your house, on a doorway, right, on a screen, okay. You can put it on your clothes, but you never ever want to put this on your skin. What you do want to do on your skin if you're going to try to keep the mosquitoes away is picaridin. I like that one a lot better. That to me, it works just as good as DEET, but you don't have the smell, and it's just amazing. So this is the one I would recommend. That's right there in the middle of the screen. You can see it. Let's see if there's anything else I want to hit here. That should do it. Did I catch most of it? I think I did, right? Okay. The next thing to be able to get rid of vectors is using powders. And there's a lot of good powders out there. I'm going to name 3 of them. If you look here behind me, you got baking soda, diatomaceous earth, and borax. I have all 3 of those for emergencies. We get ants in our house, and a lot of times those cute little ants, I don't want to, spray all the stuff in it and kill like everything, but I want to keep them out of my house, and I don't want my kids taking in all the dangerous fumes of spraying inside the house. I'll just take a little bit of diatomaceous earth, just line where the hole is, and they just stop. Okay, diatomaceous earth will scrape their bellies, kill a whole bunch of different insects. You can put it in gardens, you can put it all over the place, and it's safe. I mean, you don't want to breathe it in, right? But it's safe. You can put it on your hands, you can make a paste out of it, anything you want to, but it's awesome. If I were to have mice and I wanted to find a poison, which I don't love using poisons because the mice go somewhere and they die somewhere, right? But if I needed to, I could take a little bit of peanut butter or whatever food I want and put a little bit of baking soda in there. When that goes into a mouth, when it goes into a mouse, not a mouth, but into a mouse, when that goes into a mouse, it actually blows up the mouse. They can't digest it. And so it actually starts creating the gas in there and kills the mouse. So any type of rodent. If I were doing cockroaches, for example, I would use borax. I would mix a little bit of borax and I would put it in sugar and just let the cockroaches eat as much as they want to, and it would kill the cockroaches naturally without having to spray a whole bunch of things and hoping you're getting the cockroaches. You're just feeding them happily. The next is going to be physical traps or deterrents. Physical traps or deterrents. You got snap traps, you got glue boards, live catch traps, electric traps, bucket traps, UV bug zappers, vacuum traps. I'm going to show you guys a few of these right here so you can see what I'm talking about. Obviously, you guys know about the normal ones everybody uses, right? Snap traps, right? These are just normal. I don't like using these. They're okay, but there's just better things out there. So I have them for emergencies. Why not? Might as well. Okay, if I ever need them, I have them. But you look at this, and here's a bunch of different versions of them, plastic ones and everything else. But when you look at these right here, I love these. Anything like this, all these glue boards, all these different glue boards you can use. There's a ton of different types. There's the poisons. Again, don't love it, but you can use it. But you can mix things as well. These are what we use in our warehouses. This is what the FDA wonders if we have them in our warehouses. Why does the FDA want them in our warehouses instead of all the other stuff? Because they work. They work really well. Okay, and if you were to put some peanut butter or some food inside there, those mice will go in through this little hole right here, and they get trapped and they can't get out. And when you look at these, if there's a ton of mice, you'll have like 3, 4, 5 different mice in here, and you can just look inside and see them. For food, because it's protein. He asked why. I said, cause you can save them and eat them, and I'm totally kidding. But anyways, the thing about it is, if you needed to, you could put poison in here and kill them. They can't get out. You can do anything you want to. You can put a little glue trap in there, and they can't move. Now, if you're humane and you don't want to kill the mice, we get them on the little glue traps. And when we had mice in our house years ago, and they got into all my food storage, which was stinky. Let me cough real quick. Excuse me. when they got into my food storage and got through my house, I was trying to figure out how to get rid of them. And so we did everything. We got a bucket, and I got this little toilet paper roll and put peanut butter at the end of it. And they had to climb up books and go inside and then get to the other side, and then it tips and they fall in. And I go, yeah. And then you look at them and you turn it a little bit and it jumps out and you're like, stink. And so you got to be real careful with that. But we ended up using glue traps and catching a bunch of them. And with the glue traps, they work really well. Now you can kill them if you need to. If you want to let them go some 5 miles away from you so they don't find your house again, you can just put a little bit of oil. It just takes oil. Just put oil on the glue trap and they'll loosen up and run away. And it's just a good way of letting them go if you ever want to. But these right here are my favorite. And there's just a bunch of them. There's corner units, there's wall units, there's skinnier units, there's units that are a little bit more secure without the plastic thing on top. There's just a bunch of them. But these are things you can use during an emergency if you need to be able to catch them. Again, glue traps and these traps are awesome. Let's do a comment right back there.
How do you dispose of the live ones?
Um,
You can't flush them down the toilet.
no, I
Take them to your neighbor's
I
house, but they'll
literally,
come back.
yeah, I put them. I find a really good neighbor I love. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm a softie. I don't know why, and I've always been a softie. If I don't need to kill something, I don't kill it. But I'll take it out to a few miles away to the mountains, let it go. And so there's ways of doing it. During an emergency, not a good idea. During an emergency, I would recommend killing it. And if you need to, you can. You can.
I think
poi-
the humane
yeah.
way to do it that they recommend is drowning. From what I've heard,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
just stick them in a bucket.
But you got to remember, these things you can put sticky paper in there. You can put the poison tablets like we were talking about inside there. There's a lot of things you can do, or drown it. There's a lot of things you can do. There's a ton of ways to do it. So you know, you'll find ways to do it. You can spray poison in there if you need to, right? There's holes throughout the whole thing. There's more. Let me give you some more physical traps that you can use. You got conventional fly swatters, and I don't have one here, do I? Oh yeah, there's one. Well, this is not a conventional one, but this is kind of fun. Okay, you got conventional fly swatters. You got electric or salt fly shooters, right? Those things, you've seen them. These are pretty fun. This right here, it's got a little bit of electricity. You press the button, and you know when you get them because they go bloop, and you're like, yes, right? Yeah, right? Exactly. So you have these right here, which are really awesome, and you have those little assault guns. You've seen those; those are pretty fun to use as well. I'll give you a couple more of them. You have fly strips. And you got a bunch of these right here, these little fly ribbons you can use. So we just hold on to a bunch of these for emergencies. You got CO2 or heat traps because mosquitoes are attracted to CO2. They get 100 feet away, they can smell you, okay, your CO2, and they can come at you. You got water-based traps. You've got fake wasp nests. With the water-based traps, you guys know how to do that, right? You do a little bit of apple cider vinegar, put some soap in there. Soap kills like a ton of insects, like liquid soap for dishes. And you can just mix that together. They'll go in there to get the apple cider vinegar, and then they'll die because of the soap. You got fake wasp nests. This is an example of a fake wasp nest right here. So we always get wasps over by our grapes. And you take this right here, you tie it at the top, but also tie it at the bottom. That's the mistake a lot of people don't do, because in the wind, this thing goes nuts, okay? And wasps are very territorial. If they see another wasp nest, they'll go somewhere else. So you just make it so it doesn't move and put it somewhere where you don't want the wasps. And then obviously for birds and other things that might be eating your gardens, you can use CDs, you can use foil, you can use anything that shines in the light. There's a lot of creative ways of getting bugs, pests, and everything else away from you. Let's go into more natural ways of dealing with vector. And this in particular has to do with mosquitoes, because mosquitoes is one of the biggest disease-carrying vectors out there. You got to remember that mosquitoes are attracted to carbon dioxide, like we talked about earlier. They can smell you from about 100 feet away. They love sweat and body odor, and they're attracted to sweat and body odors, so you want to bathe often. And they like fruity smells, colognes, perfumes, so just make sure you're not wearing that stuff during an emergency. Here are a bunch of scents that the mosquitoes hate. And I actually went one step further. I actually put them in order of the most powerful repellents to the least, in order, starting on the left-hand side and going to the right-hand side. So lemon eucalyptus is the most powerful one, and I think I have one right here. Do you see this right here? This is lemon eucalyptus oil. Natural, healthy. Do you want to know something? This works just as good as your off spray, but it's healthy. Anybody want to smell it? See what it smells like? Here. Can I spray it right here? Is that okay? Smell that. Sorry, I just got your phone, didn't I? Doesn't that smell good? Anybody else want to try it? A little bit? Go. There you are. Lemon eucalyptus. It's different than eucalyptus. It's different than lemon. It's lemon eucalyptus. We don't have it here, but this stuff you can get pretty easily online. So yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it smells really good. And when you look at how effective it is, it's as effective as regular off spray, not the 100%, DEET, but the regular off spray that everybody buys. That's how powerful this is. Works really well. That's what we use, by the way. If I remember, I think, I don't remember offhand, but I want to say 6 hours, but I'm not sure. So it's somewhere around there. The next thing I'm going to bring up is sound. Now, these little buggers right here, there's a lot of controversy on them. When you go and see the ratings out there, some people say, oh, it definitely works and it got rid of my mice. Other people say, oh, I saw mice walking around and didn't do anything. I think it has to do with the sound that's going out there, because a lot of people don't want the sound audible. They want it to be in the background, and I think that's the problem. So I'm going to give you an example of what I'm talking about. You guys ready to hear this? Okay, here goes. I'm going to click one of these right here. Okay, can you hear that? Nope. I'll do another one. Can you hear that? Nope. Here goes another one. Okay. Okay, listen in. Yeah, you hear that? That thing is annoying. But I think that's the one that actually works. So in my garage, especially when we're leaving town and stick them in around the house and everything else, in my garage this is going almost all the time. And it's pretty loud. It'll get to you after a while. And so I think that's the one that actually does work. That's my opinion. The ones where you cannot hear it, I'm still doubting because of all the reviews I've seen. Let me turn this off before it drives you guys nuts. I know. We hear the dogs outside. Oh, oh, right? Exactly. All right. Animals is another way to control vectors. Obviously, they eat bugs, they eat grasshoppers and everything else. And also remember that if you do have problems with ticks, with mosquitoes, with anything else, just wear the right clothes. Wear long pants, sleeves, and gloves, loose-fitting clothes, and light-colored clothes. Surprisingly, I don't know if this is interesting to you or not, but mosquitoes are attracted to dark clothes instead of light clothes. So that's another way to be able to ward off mosquitoes a little bit more. Let me just see something real quick. Along those lines, we talked about some of the essential oils and stuff that I had on the list. The ones you can ingest, if you chew on a few of those, it helps cut down on the CO2 smell for the cloves, for example. And it cuts down on the CO2 smell so that the mosquitoes don't come after you as well. Let me see, I want to talk a little bit about this, but let me just, before I do.
And mosquitoes don't like garlic blood.
Yeah, garlic too, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, garlic is another one. I'm going to show you guys this because I think it's kind of fun. If you do go out, remember we're talking about clothes, and can I have somebody, would you mind standing up here for a second? Okay, when you're talking about going out in the brush during tick season, here's a little trick for you, your kids, or whatever else. You can take your pants right here, go ahead and stand right here so the camera can see you. Okay? You can take your pants right here and you can tighten them up on your shoe like that. Okay? But the cool thing about it is this. You ready? You twist the tape and put it backwards. Do you see what I'm doing there? I got a sticky area. And you can do that as high as you want to. And during tick season, you're actually stopping the ticks. When they're trying to walk up, they get stuck on the tape, just like a sticky trap. And that's another way to do it as well. You could do it in different places. Anywhere where they can get in, you could be able to do that. Does that make sense? Awesome. One more piece of advice is consider mosquito nets. And I think we have some up here. So here's a couple mosquito nets that we sell. This one right here is a big mesh mosquito net. This one right here, you can just stick over your head. And if you're during an emergency and you have to be outside, this thing's not bad. I mean, it can take care of a lot of the problems for you just by having the mosquito nets on. To be able to wrap up the hygiene section, we're going to talk about something a little bit more difficult to talk about, and that's dead bodies. I mean, if you came across people that die, right? Even people maybe you even know, or pets that die or whatever else, like what do you do? How do you do that? That's what we're going to talk about in this section. Before we get into that, I don't know if you saw that funny story on the internet that got passed around about the old Italian man. You guys know what I'm talking about? There's an old Italian man, and he was really sad because his son was in prison, and he wrote his son and said, I am so sad. I miss you. I wish you were here. I'm getting too old. I'm getting too weak. I wanted to plant a garden this year, but I just can't break up the soil. I just don't have the energy. I can't do it. If you were here, you would have done it in 2 seconds. You'd spend 2-3 days breaking it all up, getting it ready for me so I can plant my plants and have a wonderful garden. But I think this year I'm just not going to be able to do the garden. And he wrote that to his son in prison. And his son wrote a letter as quickly back as he could and said, please don't dig in that garden because that's where I buried the dead body. And so the next morning, the FBI ended up showing up, and they started digging it up and getting their big excavators and breaking up the soil and turning it all over and looking at everything. And confused, they're like, we didn't find anything. And they were so confused. Well, the next day, the father got a letter from his son and said, Dad, it was the best I could do here from prison. Go ahead and plant your garden now. Okay? So anyways, thanks. You guys laughed at my joke. When it comes to deceased bodies, how you handle them, remember always to have the right PPE, the right personal protective equipment. You want to be able to prevent the spread of diseases, so use rubber gloves, masks, face shields, goggles, hazmat suits, gowns, whatever you need to, and remember to limit the amount of people that are handling bodies. So not everyone's going to take care of it. Usually there's 1, 2, 3 people that are taking care of dead bodies. Everybody else stay away from the dead bodies. For example, in our collection, you don't have to do this. This is us. But in our collection, we do have everything we need. We have a hazmat suit. These are cheap. You can wear them. We've got a few of these if we ever need them, and we can put these on, and it covers up pretty much everything we need to cover up, including our heads. And then we're able to put a mask on, so not anything doesn't get in there. Right inside there, inside the little mask there, it covers that up as well. We can put filters underneath here, and then we have gloves that we're able to put over the hazmat suit as well. So these gloves can take care of. Now, not everybody's going to want to do this stuff, but because I do preparedness for a living, we have ways of handling bodies if we need to as well. And so that's some of the things we have in our emergency kits just in case. The other thing you should remember is to cover bodies with lime. And lime is really good for doing a bunch of good things like neutralizing odors, speeds up decomposition of the bodies. It deters pests and scavengers from getting to the body. It limits the spread of disease, and it acts as a disinfectant. People ask me, what type of lime should I get? And I see this on the internet so many times. It's so funny watching people put out videos and they pull out hydrated lime, or not hydrated lime, agricultural lime. Agricultural lime is not the right thing to use. It's not going to work very well. Agricultural lime is calcium carbonate or ground limestone. It's called garden lime. It's the worst thing you can put on any body, any trash, or anything else like that. You can use this, by the way, with trash as well. What's better than that is quicklime, which is calcium oxide or heated or burnt limestone. That's better, okay? It's the second best. The best one you can get is called hydrated lime. Hydrated lime is calcium hydroxide or slaked lime or pickling lime or S-lime, okay? Those are other names for it. If you're going to do pickling lime, it's just way too expensive. Just go to a hardware store and get yourself some S-lime, and I'll just show you what that looks like. So this is S-lime right here. I don't know if you can see it. It comes in a big bag like that. The S-lime will actually fill up 2 5-gallon buckets. So in our preparedness, not only for dead bodies or for dead animals, but also for burying trash, okay, we have lots of lime. We label it lime. This is S-lime, slaked lime, okay? So one big bag, I think it's 25 pounds? 50 pounds. One 50-pound bag will fill up 2 buckets like this. That was just a bag, right? Yeah. Okay. Not a dead body. So hydrated lime is the best one you can get, and that's what you should invest in if you're going to do it. The next thing you need to do is figure out how to contain the body. You can get cadaver bags, body bags. You can get contractor bags, visqueen, plastic wrap, and anything else that you can get creative with. Right here I have some examples of what I'm talking about. If we were to be in an emergency situation, if all I had was regular big trash bags, I could put different trash bags on a body and duct tape it if I needed to. This one right here happens to be a contractor bag. These are really thick, okay? Here's another one right here where you can actually put bodies in, shorter bodies, right? And if you need to use 2, you can overlap them from the top and the bottom and put them in them. You got cadaver bags. This is what they look like if you guys want to see what they look like. This is a cadaver bag which has little handles that you can actually put a body in and be able to carry it. Here's like $20 online. Yeah, they're like $20. And the thing about it is, you know, most people are not going to go out and get this stuff. Obviously, this is my profession, so that's what I do, right? I always want to test out everything, so I buy stuff and test it out, right? These are cheaper right here. They don't have the handles, but they work just as well. But there's a bunch of things you can use. Now, if you don't have any of these bags, what can you use? Remember we talked about visqueen, that you should give visqueen for emergencies? Wrap them in visqueen if you need to. If you have saran wrap, here's some packing wrap, right, that we use on pallets at the warehouse. You can use this if you need to. There's a whole bunch of things you can use. It helps keep critters away from the body, but also keeps the stench and everything out from getting to you, right? The infectious diseases. If you look at how a body decomposes, within a month, it's foaming. Okay, it gets pretty gross. It expands, it gases. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that happens during that time, and eventually it just disintegrates to nothing. You know, the bugs get to it and everything else. When you dispose of the body, you want to keep, when you're disposing of bodies or when you're disposing of bodies or animals, thank you. When you're disposing of bodies or animals, when you're disposing of human bodies or animals, you want to keep other animals, rodents, insects, and foul smells away. So when you're going to bury that dead body, you want to dig a hole at least 4 feet deep, at least. You want to cover the body with lime before you contain the body. Then you want to be able to contain the body, if possible, in some type of plastic or whatever else. The lime's going to help with the decomposition and the smell inside. And then after you do that, you put more lime on the outside so critters don't try to dig it up. Okay, don't try to get into it. If you don't have lime, you can always use ash. Ash is also very high alkaline, and it can do a lot of the same things that hydrated lime can do. You want to cover it with at least 18 inches of soil. And if you can, or you want to, you can always burn the body. Just remember that you need to take the bones afterwards and bury those in a safe place. Yep, let's go ahead.
Well, just from a legality aspect, you always want to document what happened to the person, the time that it happened, their name, because there might be exhumed later on when things do come back to normal, and they'll want to maybe do like a
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. It's kind of fun because when I was doing all the research on dead bodies, I'm sure somebody in the CIA was looking at me. You know, I was sitting there going, "How do I dispose of a dead body?" You know, and I'm doing that online, right? You know, and I go into was it Lowe's? I think it was Lowe's, and said, "Hey, you know, I'm teaching a class on dead bodies pretty soon. I was wondering, do you have any hydrated lime? You know, if I were to bury a dead body?" And the guy's like, you know, it's kind of fun. My wife was with me and she goes, "You're doing that on purpose." And I go, "Absolutely." And so it's kind of funny, but yeah, I'm sure I'm on somebody's watch list at this point. Yeah. So keep diseases from spreading. If needed, disinfect the location where the body was found, or burn and safely dispose of contaminated clothes, bedding, or whatever else. That is the end of the hygiene section. And to wrap this part up, before we move to the next video, I'm going to have everybody who's watching this to stop the video. Create your hygiene plan for long-term emergencies right now. And when you're done with that, let's get to the next section. You guys went through it. Thank you. That was the longest of all of them. So you guys want a quick stretch? Okay, let's do a quick stretch and I'll clean this up. Can somebody help me move some of this stuff out of here?
You might be interested. The Army has a protocol
Yeah.
to prevent vectors on soldiers.
What do they do?
They wear their uniform to ankle length and wrist length. They treat the uniforms with permethrin. They have them use insect repellent.
I love it.
Well, they've
That's
twice
cool.
in 2 different studies on
Yeah.
deployments in detail went and told a large group of soldiers exactly how to do it, and then had diaries and they kept track of what they were going to do and came back and interviewed them, found
Yeah.
out how many of it. Approximately 1/3 of the soldiers did exactly as they were told.
No kidding.
Approximately 1/3 of the soldiers did absolutely nothing.
Oh,
and
wow.
1/3 did some of the things.
Yeah.
And that was one 30 years ago they did that, and another one about 10 years ago they repeated it with virtually identical results.
Yeah. That's amazing. I would like to go through that study sometime. Thank you. Okay.
Here's how you handle another vector.
Yeah.
If you hunt a deer or elk for
Yep.
food, and it'll have deer ticks or whatever that could carry Lyme disease,
Yeah.
throw a tarp over it, do a bug bomb, and go away and do something for 10 minutes and come
Yeah.
back.
That's good. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yep.
I want you to know that our boys
Mhm.
love your deodorant stuff.
Oh, seriously?
My eldest son
Yeah.
had a serious problem, and he's in the supply
Yeah.
at IMC, and
Yeah.
so he's moving a lot. He sweats, and he said after half a day, it's just really odorous. But
Yeah,
he uses that stuff, and he said it's just great. I mean, he swears by it.
I might have you mention that when we get to that section because I like it's amazing. And it's natural. That's the crazy thing. It's natural. You know? And it's healthy. And you're not going to get crazy things in your brain.
Even got some more.
Yeah.
He puts it on his body, but then he'll put the smelly stuff on his clothes.
Yeah.
But he says it keeps him from sweating, and he has no odor. He said, except
I love it.
slight chlorine. He says.
Yeah. And that's only when you put it on. It's not so bad afterwards, right? So yeah, I've been using it and I'm just loving it.
He swears.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate that. That is awesome. Let's see. I'm just going to flip through this so I know what I'm going to be talking about. Okay. Yeah, that's all of it. Okay, that one's fast.
One thing that you didn't talk about,
Yeah,
I don't think that they are vector
yeah,
pests, but bed bugs.
yeah. I've mentioned bed bugs in there, but I didn't go into it.
Okay,
So, but yeah, about getting rid of them. So,
you mentioned it.
yeah.
Was I asleep? When you
No,
said
it was on when I read off all the different bugs. I
Oh.
mentioned bed bugs, but I didn't go into it.
Yeah, but your insecticides.
Yeah.
None of them really kill them, at
I
least.
don't know what to do with those. Like, what do you do?
Well, we had some for a couple months,
Yeah,
and I ended up getting this stuff online. I mean, we paid like $400 or $500 to have somebody come spray, and nothing, didn't do anything. And then I found some stuff online for about $20, and it was.
remember the name of it? Or?
I can look it up. But it came out of California where they're extra cautious about
Yeah.
environmental issues and stuff. And give me a sec, I can find it. But in
Would
any
you-
case,
would you mind?
I sprayed it all around the baseboards.
And it worked.
Gone. Yeah.
Would you mind giving that to
Well, I can show it to you.
Celeste? Have her write it down for me.
Okay, yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, let's get started. So those online, hopefully you guys had a chance to go to the bathroom. And
For the deodorant.
yeah, it's
I also have something you might want to bring up.
okay. What is it?
Okay, so like when you're doing all the washing, like in the buckets,
Yeah.
what if everybody kept their own bucket? What if somebody had
Oh.
an infection? You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And you kept only their laundry separately. So like the baby's stuff stays with the baby's stuff, so and the mommy's stuff stays with the mommy's stuff.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
You never know if a person had an infection of some kind, and
Yeah.
as you're doing laundry all together, you might be just sharing all the stuff with the rest of the family.
Love it. Thank you.
So something.
That's awesome. Thank you. I might bring that up. Let me see if it can fit in. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started. Everybody sit down. And thanks for your input, by the way. Appreciate that. Let's see if anyone else is out here. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. We have everybody out here? Okay. Is this still on? Yeah, it is, right? Can you guys hear me okay on the, is the speaker up enough? Okay. Okay, I think, let's see. Is anybody on this side? Okay. Are you coming? Okay, we're going to get,
Knocking the camera for me. Is it knocking the camera?
and yeah, let's turn it off. Yeah, it is a little warm in here, isn't it? Yeah. What is disposable what?
We learned how to dispose of dead people. So
There you are,
like,
exactly.
We're okay.
And I've got plenty of supplies for that here, so we're good. We're good. We'll take if anybody dies in the heat here, we got you. Yeah, exactly.
I know. You want me to leave the door open, or is there
No.
too much noise?
Too much noise for me.
Okay.
All ADD.
All right.
So let's go ahead and get
All right.
started.
You got it.
Oh, I don't know if they're coming or not. Okay. Anybody else out here? Okay. I think we're good. All right. This one is a shorter one. This one we're going to go through hopefully pretty quickly. And it's going to be cleaning, sanitation, disinfection. All right. Now we are talking about cleaning, sanitation, and disinfection. And when we are in an emergency, we got to think, why is this so important? Obviously, the answer is because it helps keep diseases from spreading. That's what we're talking about in these sections. The rule is during an emergency, clean and disinfect and get rid of the dust and everything else like you normally would every single day. For those of you who are messy, right? Clean better than you normally would, right? When I got married, I don't know if I told you guys this, but I ended up getting married when I was almost 41 years old. Okay, and I had dated half of BYU, half of Salt Lake, and I really thought I was something, you know, like when people said Marcelo, I'm like, yeah, I'm somebody, right? But what I found out is when I finally got married, I became somebody. What happened is I got married, and all of a sudden I heard from the other room, somebody didn't pick up the socks, somebody didn't clean the dishes, and I became somebody finally when I got married. And so, but anyway, you want to clean as well as you normally would before an emergency, maybe even better, probably even better, because you never want to have a chance of dust attracting bugs or anything else. Keeping that in mind, you want to have all the supplies you would need before an emergency happens stored away or you use it normally. That includes rubber gloves, that includes dish soap, plastic scouring pads. I'll show you the one that I like if I can find it right here. So this is a scouring pad right here that I like. These right here are better than those sponges that really smell because they're not going to gather all the bacteria. Same thing with these. I'll show you a few other ones. Some of the things that I like to have. You got the gloves. I like anything that has a hard plastic on it that's not going to gather the bacteria. That's what we store up in our house for emergencies. You can have spray bottles, rags, steel wool, dish drying racks, buckets, brooms, mops, toilet scrubbers, storable cleaning items, and natural solutions like vinegar, like white vinegar, lemon oil, whatever you're going to use, right, for cleaning. So when it comes to cleaning, sanitation, and disinfection, what's the difference between the three? Obviously, cleaning is cleaning, right? Cleaning is the foundation for sanitation and disinfection. If you don't clean, remember how we talked about bacteria can hide between things and inside things. When you're trying to clean things, if it's like dirty and there's gunk and food and whatever and grease, that's hiding bacteria inside there and it keeps you from getting the bacteria underneath. So you want to make sure you do a really good job cleaning so you can kill the bacteria, viruses, and whatever else. Just make the viruses so they can't multiply or whatever else. The next one is going to be sanitation. Sanitation has to do primarily with getting to safe enough levels of bacteria. Sanitation isn't so much viruses. That goes into disinfection. Disinfection takes care of bacteria and viruses. It's a deeper level of cleaning. When it comes to cleaning, there are 4 big reasons why you want to keep a house clean, especially during an emergency. First of all, it discourages pests. Second of all, the disinfection can happen because you get rid of all the bacteria in the little pieces of stuff that's around your house like we talked about. Third, it reduces cross-contamination, so you're not touching something and then spreading it all over the place and then bacteria and disease gets out of control. And fourth, there's a psychological part of it. There's an emotional part of it during an emergency. When you have a simplified, clean, safe place, you feel secure. You feel happier. You feel like you can handle the stress of the emergency situation even better. When people think about emergency situations, they imagine that things are really bad and there's clumps of this here and piles of that there and chairs piled up there and everything like that. But the truth is, it doesn't have to be like that. The truth is, you can still have a very clean and organized place, a simplified place during an emergency, just as much as before an emergency. When we talk about sanitation, this has to do mostly with bacteria like we talked about. You want to get it to safe enough levels. There are 3 solutions I'm going to give you that a lot of people use outside of normal cleaning solutions. One of them is essential oils. People store up essential oils. This is a good solution, but it's not a great solution. A lot of essential oils, people are really passionate about their oils, right? But a lot of these things aren't going to really kill a lot of the major bacteria that are out there. It'll do okay, but not great. better than essential oils is going to be lemon juice. So if you have no other cleaning solutions and you have a lemon tree, do a 50-50 percent solution, lemon and water. And then you can clean things up. You let it stand for about 5 minutes and it kills quite a bit of the bacteria. The best of all of them, as far as the alternative ways of sanitizing, is going to be white vinegar. It's got the highest amount of acid. White vinegar is amazing. You want to know the shelf life? Indefinite. It doesn't go bad. So why not get it? You can use it for so many things during an emergency, but it does the best job at killing bacteria out of all the natural solutions out there for the most part. When you get into disinfection, that's where you should be aiming for, not just sanitation. You want to go for disinfection. One way of disinfecting, if you have no other way of doing it, is just putting things out in the sun. It's just putting things out in the sun, especially porous things or clothes or anything with holes in it. You stick it out there and it's able to get the sunlight in it, and the UV kills things within a few hours. You keep it out there for 6 hours on a sunny day and it'll kill most of the stuff. You turn it over, let it stay for another 6 hours if you need to, and it kills pretty much everything. Now, if it's really cloudy, you're going to want to go more than 6 hours, right? You're going to sometimes want to go a whole day. Really cloudy, sometimes 2 days, right? And it'll be able to kill most of the bacteria on surfaces. Better than sunlight, or at least quicker than sunlight, depends on what you think better is using alcohol. Alcohol is great for surfaces, for doorknobs, for countertops. It just works so quickly. It's just amazing. And so having alcohol is great too. And what's the shelf life of alcohol? Forever. It's a great thing to have on hand. Again, vinegar and alcohol, right? Even better than alcohol, and I talk about it all the time, is hypochlorous acid. That's no, actually, let me back up. I apologize. Yeah, I forgot I was going to share one more with you guys. Outside of alcohol, there's another solution that I keep on hand, and that's quaternary ammonia. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. This is called stearamine. These are tablets. They have a 10+ year shelf life. I don't think they actually have a shelf life. I think it just keeps going. You keep it in a cool, dry place. These things can be used in emergency for a long period of time. You end up taking, for example, a little squirt bottle like this, and you pop in one of these tablets. I'll show you what the tablets look like. I don't know if you can see them online, but I'll just grab one here. Grab one right here. You can see how big it is. You see that? I don't know if you can zoom in on that, Kyle. But you see that little tablet?
Like a thick nickel.
Yeah, it's not even as big as a nickel. It's more like a dime, right? This little thing right here has such a long shelf life. You take one of these right here, and you pop it in one of these right here, you're going to have a very strong concentration. You take 1 or 2 of these, put them in a gallon, you're going to have a pretty good concentration. I just do 1 in a bottle like this, and it's not bad to have a stronger concentration. But you're able to spray it on top of things, wash dishes with it. This is what they use in restaurants to kill bacteria on the plates. And I think they do it for 30 seconds, if I remember right? 1 minute. Okay, it says 1 minute right there. They put dishes in for 1 minute, kills everything, let it dry, it's good. Same thing you can do on countertops and everything else, stearamine. So this is a good thing to have. One of the concerns people have, this is the same thing you find with Clorox wipes. You think that Clorox wipes is bleach. It's not bleach, it's this. It's quaternary ammonia, or quats. One of the concerns is that people don't know the long-term effects of this. So it's not the safest thing possibly, but it's a really good thing for emergency. Would I get it? Yeah, I have a whole bunch. Absolutely. Say again?
We wear gloves just because it
Yeah,
absorb through your skin.
exactly. Exactly. So wear gloves when you're doing this as well. Thank you. My most favorite way of disinfecting during an emergency, and you guys hear me talk about it all the time, is hypochlorous acid. Hypochlorous acid, if you get it to a 5.7 pH level, it's 120 times more potent than bleach at killing things. And when you look at the science of it, I'll just give you guys a little lesson here. You guys have the pH scale. You see this in front of me? All right. right here on the pH scale, you have right here a base, and let's say acid on this side, because I'm doing it for you guys. Acid on this side, a base on this side. Bleach is a base, chlorine is an acid. Bleach has a negative charge. A lot of bacteria has a negative charge. What happens when you put two negatives together? They repel. Bleach isn't the strongest thing at killing bacteria. The thing that kills the bacteria in the bleach is going to be the oxidation more than anything else. But bleach also has a short shelf life, and if you store it away after a few months, it just loses its potential to be able to kill things. It might smell like bleach, but it doesn't do the job. So you don't ever want to store up bleach. I made that mistake. Yeah, and plus, when I stored it up, I finally went down and cleaned out where I stored it up in the basement on top of the carpet, and it had eaten the bottle at the bottom, and it went into my carpet, and my carpet just disintegrated in my hands. It was just crazy. It's just dumb. Don't store up bleach. What you do want to do is you want to be able to make hypochlorous acid on the spot. And it takes a little tiny bit of electricity, and it takes some really complex ingredients. You guys ready for the complex ingredients? Salt and water. What's the shelf life of salt? Indefinite. Water, easy to get because you have it stored up, right? Okay. But the problem is when you do salt and water, you're not getting the pH level that is going to be the most effective. It still works. It's still way better than bleach. But if you can add a little bit of vinegar and bring down the pH level from a normal 7 down to about a 5.7, and you have ways of testing it so you know that you just did that, right? If you get to 5.7, that is potent. That is amazing. And it's just, I think I brought some here. Let me see if I brought some. Oh, yeah. The cool thing about it is this. Ready? Here's some that we made up. I'm going to have somebody smell it. Yeah, it smells like a pool. Okay, it smells like chlorine, doesn't it? Okay. I ended up having a sore right here, and I couldn't get rid of it. Sprayed it there. It went away. It was a rash sore. It was weird. It just wasn't healing. Okay. You can do so many things with this, and I'll show you a couple examples. Here's one thing you can do, clean counters. You can spray your hands with it. Remember I was telling you guys that if I had my choice instead of alcohol and I just washed my hands, I just spray a little bit of this on my hands and let it dry, kill the bacteria on it. Then I would put a little bit of silver lotion on it. And then I got 6 hours of protection after that because it killed all the bacteria ahead of time. So it's a great way to do it. People will take this, hunters will take this and spray it on their bodies and go hunting because the deer or whatever can't smell them. It helps get rid of body odor as well. And talking about body odor, you guys noticed that we came out with a hypochlorous acid deodorant. Okay, it's amazing. I mean, how many of you are using this? Just, oh my goodness, I didn't know that many people were using it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's amazing. Okay, this right here, my favorite deodorant used to be coconut oil because it's antimicrobial. Put a little bit of baking soda in it. It works amazingly well. When we came out with this right here, this is our brand, Pure Elements. That's our brand. When we came out with this, I tested it, and my team's like, "You're so weird," okay? Because when I test things, I kind of go out all the way. You know, we talked about shocking myself and everything else. I went days of not showering, and not only did I go days of not showering, I figured out a ways of sweating and going hiking and just sweating a ton and everything else. And I'm like, guys, day 2, no smell. Guys, day 3, no smell. They're like, "You're so weird," and everything like that, you know. But I test things out. Now, everybody's body chemistry is going to be a little bit different. My body chemistry works really well with this. I haven't asked you guys, but I'm going to ask a few of you to give me just hypochlorous acid, the safest deodorant in the world. You do not want to leave this in the heat because hypochlorous acid will break apart and go back to salt, vinegar, and water if you leave it in the heat or you put it in the sunlight. Obviously, the sunlight can't get to this, so you keep it out of the heat. You keep it out of the heat. But let's get this real quick, just so you guys, let's have a few people talk about their experiences with hypochlorous acid. Go ahead and start with you. Pass it around. I want to hear a few of you guys.
My son had an issue with odor.
Get a little closer.
In his job, after a couple hours of work, he sweats a whole bunch.
Yeah.
And even his boss was saying, you should go to the restroom and kind of freshen up.
Yeah.
We tried some of this stuff with him, and he absolutely loves it. He has no more odor. Not a problem anymore. It's just working really, really well for him. He puts it on directly onto his skin. He will put smelly stuff on his clothes.
Yeah.
for to be better around people, but it works wonders for him.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's really amazing.
It's amazing. I had a friend come over and he stunk pretty bad, and I said, "Can I do you a favor?" And I put it on, and it took away the stink that quickly. Does anybody else have been using it? Let's get a couple other people to give their thoughts on it.
Well, I wanted something without aluminum.
Yep.
And I had been using something else that had no aluminum, and I thought, oh, this is great. And then I came to a class over here and found out about this and tried it, and I love it because
It's amazing.
there's no smell.
Yeah.
Truly no smell.
Yeah, and this might be TMI. Was it too much information? But you could put it in your groin too, and it gets rid of the smell in your groin too.
Well, I haven't gone that far.
Oh yeah. But anyways, I've probably too much information, right? I test out everything, guys. Okay, and let's get a couple more. Let's go ahead. It should be a green light. Is it green? Go ahead.
Yeah. I did press the button. Right.
Awesome.
All right. No, I just hated wearing deodorant.
Yeah.
Just really bothered me. But I hate the sweat rings on my clothes.
Yep.
And with this, I have
nothing,
no
huh?
problems at all.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I brought it home and my wife tried it, and she claimed it immediately. And she doesn't share.
She took
so
it
I had
from
to
you.
come back and order it again.
Yep, it's amazing. I mean, it sounds like Old Spice, exactly. Yeah, thank you guys for taking a few minutes. I'd get more of you, but we got to move on with class. But thank you for sharing just a little tiny bit. Here is another thing that I did. You know the smelly sponges like I was talking about? I literally tried it out. Usually you take those smelly sponges and you wash them with soap and water and smell them, and what happens? They still smell. So you put them in the microwave and you cook them enough to kill the bacteria, and it comes out, you're like, oh, I can use the sponge again. I literally took a little bit of hypochlorous acid, just sprayed some on, and the smell went away that quick. It was just amazing. And I'm going to show you guys how dangerous hypochlorous acid is. You ready for this? That's how dangerous it is. Well, 120 times more potent than bleach. My friend ended up having the fungus on a tree. And he said, I'm going to try it on that. And he ended up spraying his tree for about 2 weeks, and the fungus went away. I'm curious, I haven't done it yet, so maybe some of you out there, or you guys can actually try this out on plants, but I'm curious if it'll do the same thing on plants. I haven't been able to try it yet.
Can I add one thing on it?
Yep.
For the first aid pet kits that we do, hypochlorous is the wound care spray that we use for them.
Yeah, exactly. It's just amazing. So you get open wounds and you're able to put it in there, and now you're not worried about killing the good bacteria, just the bad bacteria, because hypochlorous acid, just to let you guys know, is the exact same thing that your white blood cells in your body create naturally. It's the same thing. The only difference is we make it on the outside by putting salt water and vinegar and then using an electrochemical reaction to be able to create it and use it. But it's the same thing. You can use it for pink eye. I use it personally when I end up getting sick. I end up doing a neti bottle, right? Neti pot. And I just put it inside there along with some salt. I'll do salt, and then I'll do some hypochlorous acid and water. Just put it through my nose, and it helps clear it. I've tested it out, and it clears pretty well. I'm like, that's awesome, because it's killing the bacteria in there. I've used it for swishing. So while I'm brushing teeth, maybe once, 2, 3, 4 times a week, whenever I want to, after I do the brushing, or if I do my gargling with mouthwash, I'll just do a little bit of hypochlorous acid to kill any bad bacteria inside my mouth, but keep the good bacteria. Same thing with, I mean, I'm not telling you guys to do this. That's my disclaimer, right? Because some medical crazy person is going to be out there. But I drink it sometimes as well, just to take a little bit inside.
Doesn't your silver gel do the same thing?
Here, go ahead.
Doesn't your silver gel do the same thing?
On the outside? Yeah,
No,
absolutely.
when you brush your teeth.
Yeah, same thing. So it's
Yeah,
going to be that.
and you just swallow it. You don't spit it out
Oh,
because
I spit out the the toothpaste. I just go to bed without washing it
Oh,
out.
okay.
But every now and then I'll take some hypochlorous acid, and I'll just swish with it, and it just helps with the mouth, right? So there's so many things you could do.
You said you got a neighbor that that sprayed it on a tree and it went away in 2 weeks.
Yeah, he did it for I think it was 10 days or something
I've
like
got
that.
a neighbor.
Yeah.
If I sprayed it on him, would it?
Yeah, you know, if you can try that and let me know if it works, that would be awesome. I mean, any problems during an emergency, I just get rid of the people I need to. Did you have another comment? Let's go ahead and go back there.
I used to have, when I had hair, it was red. So redheads don't do sun.
Yeah.
So I visit my dermatologist regularly.
Yeah.
And for wound care, because I've had, I forget the name of the surgery all of a sudden, but they just say rinse with vinegar and water and put Vaseline on it.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they suggest using this as a spritz?
You want to know why?
I'm just curious if you have
Most
an answer
people
to
don't
that.
even know about it. It's
Well,
crazy.
I'm going to query my dermatologist.
Most people don't know what it is. I've been in this
It's called
game
Mohs surgery. Sorry,
I've been in this game for what, 15 years or so, and I teach the gurus, okay? And when I'm talking to some of the biggest people who've written some of the biggest books on Amazon and do the biggest channels on YouTube, whatever else, I say, hey, what are you doing with hypochlorous acid? You know what I get? I don't know what that is.
Yeah, the hospitals aren't using it yet because they still want to use the chlorhexidine and the
Yeah.
betadine and things that are more studied or evidence-based. So once this gets out, I see this replacing all of those types of chemicals
absolutely.
because they don't have, like right now, there's so many contact allergic reactions to it. But the dermatologists are starting to use it more than any of the other specialties, ironically.
And dentists are starting to pick up on it.
Yeah,
Airlines are starting to pick up on it, where instead of they fog the whole cabin with hypochlorous acid, and it kills everything very quickly, and it's safe. Okay, and just give you another story, just to go one step further, and I'll go over here to you. And my boy ended up peeing on the carpet. Now, when you pee on carpet, it's hard to get that smell out. So what I ended up doing is taking a bunch of hypochlorous acid and soaking that part, just putting a whole bunch in, and then taking a towel and soaking it up afterwards. No smell at all, zero. But the cool thing about it is, what would have happened if I did that with bleach? Yeah, ruined the carpet. Yeah, but it was amazing. Yeah, but the thing about it is hypochlorous acid during an emergency can do so much, and it's so easy to make. I can talk a little bit about it, and I'll show you. So I've been testing out a bunch of them, and I'm still deciding which ones I'm going to recommend. But I've probably spent maybe $1,000 on testing equipment, right? This right here is one of them right here. This is a hypochlorous acid generator. Okay, so I just plug this in, plug it into the wall. It uses very little electricity, and I put it in. If I'm doing about a quart, it takes about 10 to 15 minutes. If I'm doing about a gallon, it takes close to an hour, right? But I just stick it in there, and the plates do all the rest of the work as long as I have the right amount of stuff in it. Now, the amount of salt and vinegar, do you want to know how much it is? Okay, for a gallon, it's probably a little bit my thumb of salt and about that much for vinegar. Not quite a tablespoon. Okay, but it's not very much. It's very little, and that gallon, by the way, can go for months. I mean, that's a lot of cleaning solution that I could be using. Let's go ahead and go right back here.
And then does that generator device activate the chemicals that end up with your finished product?
Yeah, that's what it does.
And then do you have to reactivate it, or once you get it to a finished state, will it last that way for eternity?
So it's interesting because there's some companies that they say it's 2 weeks and then it's gone, right? Other companies are saying, oh, we can do a year and a half, 2 years. I still don't believe everything. I always question everything. I'm thinking that the reason why it can last longer, and this is my theory, is because they're using a better plate for it. to be able to do a better job at it. They're doing the right mixture, and my theory is that they're also doing a higher concentration. So, you know, for example, you do a 200 ppm, it's going to degrade over time. You do 500 ppm, it's going to degrade over time. Which one's going to last longer? The 500 ppm, right? Parts per million is what that means, ppm. Go ahead.
So, super quick story. Several years ago, I broke out in a whole bunch of hives, and like nothing was helping it, no matter what it was, natural or medical.
Yeah.
And this is the first time I've ever heard of this.
Yeah.
So I'm just going back in time, and I'm thinking if I had this, like I could put it in a bath or something and soak, right?
Yeah.
But and I know that it's fairly new, you know, like a lot of people don't know about it.
It's old, but nobody knows about it.
Yes.
That's the thing.
So is there anything that you know it should not be mixed with, or can you mix it with things? Like, for example, Epsom salts and this for like a bath? Or do we know?
Me personally, I don't know of anything you can't. But you remember, if you're putting it in more water, you're diluting it and you're changing the pH. Does that make sense? So it's going to weaken. It's going to weaken when you do that. But it's still going to do some good stuff. In fact, if you go to bleach, remember how we talked bleach and chlorine and all that stuff? Part of the reason why bleach even works, remember we talked about oxidation, when it gets down to a lower pH, it actually releases the hypochlorous acid, but it's like, I don't know, 1% or something like that. It's nothing. That's why, you know, you do hypochlorous acid, that's what the bleach is doing, but you're doing it pure. You're doing the right stuff. And you're getting just really safe, effective stuff. That's what it is. Let's go right over here.
Okay, so the tablets.
Yeah.
You put it in the water.
What tablets?
Oh,
stearamine. Stearamine. Yep.
Okay, you put that in the water, and it creates the hypochlorous acid,
No,
right?
doesn't. So stearamine is different. Okay, hypochlorous acid is what we're talking about here. Stearamine is a quaternary ammonia. It's a quat. It's not the safest thing. It's what they use in a lot of restaurants. It has a long shelf life, so I have it, and I can stick it in a little spray bottle if I need it, if I cannot generate my own hypochlorous acid.
So how do you generate your own?
That's what I just showed you, that little...
Okay, so you would have to have that to generate...
Or some type of generator that you put inside the water that has the salt and the vinegar in it.
Okay.
And you're going to get the right mixture. The more salt and vinegar you put in, the more ppms, right? The less ppms, and then the vinegar is allowing the pH to go down to more acidity, so it gets to a 5.7. If you test it, you're like, oh, I'm at a 5.7, and then you know with my water that I have from my house, with this much salt and with this much vinegar, if I do this exact same formula every time, I'm going to get a 5.7. Does that make sense?
Along with the generator.
5.7 pH. Yeah, along with the generator. A generator has to be there because you're not going to be able to create the hypochlorous acid just by mixing vinegar, water, and salt. It doesn't work. It has to be created.
Does it come in the bottle already?
If you buy like that, you're buying something that's going to degrade. You want to create your own. Does that make sense? So let's go one more here.
I think we had one right here.
Oh, let's go two more. Wow, you guys are excited.
Just
about
wondering
hypochlorous.
about how to get it then. Can you buy the little generator online, or?
You can, but give me a little more time to test out which ones are real.
Okay.
So I need more time to test them.
And one question: how do you stabilize it for the deodorant?
Deodorant is strong ppm, so it's gonna degrade over time. But we just do a strong ppm, so it lasts a little bit longer. You put it in the heat or sun, which sun doesn't get to it, but heat, you're gonna lose it a lot quicker. Does that make sense? Okay, awesome. Well, good. Well, you guys, we got through that portion. You guys had a lot of good comments and thoughts, and I lost my little clicker. Did I put it anywhere? Clicker, there it is. But you guys had some awesome thoughts on it. Let's take time right now, okay, before we get to the video, everybody who's watching this, take some time right now to create your cleaning, your sanitation, and your disinfection plan for long-term emergencies. Are you going to use essential oils? Are you going to use lemons because you have a lemon tree out there? Are you going to store vinegar? Are you going to eventually get a hypochlorous acid machine? What are you going to do for long-term emergencies to be able to prepare yourself to be able to clean and disinfect with all the cleaning equipment you need? Get that done right now before you go to the next video. Don't skip it. Okay, what happens is people go through the courses and they end up watching all the videos and never getting back and doing the homework. Do the homework, and I'll see you on the next video. Okay, let's go to sewage and human waste. This is the fun one. You guys ready for this? Okay, here goes. Okay, this one right here is what you paid big bucks to be here for, right? Is the sewage and human waste disposal. Our favorite topic of sewage and human waste. What do we do with sewage and human waste? Sewage control is so important because obviously if you don't take care of it, you're going to have a problem bigger than the actual first emergency. And if we look at some of the things that happened in history, let's go back to the Milwaukee cryptosporidium outbreak of 1993. If you remember that, over 400,000 people ended up getting sick with cryptosporidium. And that's some pretty bad stuff with diarrhea, with nausea, and with dehydration. If you look at what happened during Hurricane Sandy, which is crazy, back in 2012 in New York and New Jersey, 11 billion gallons of sewage went out from the sewage stations and everything else into the city. People were walking through sewage, sometimes waist high. Okay, $3 billion to correct it, another $1.7 billion to correct the infrastructure after that. Crazy. But people's basements got filled up. Streets had it. I mean, we're talking chemicals. We're talking sewage. A lot of bad stuff. And that was the majority of that came from sewage stations. When you look at how sewage backup can happen in your home, because if it backs up in your home, it comes out of the toilets, it comes out of the drains. It infests your house with stinky, dangerous sewage. When you think about how that could happen to any of us here, let me list off a few of them. Naturally, natural disasters wise, it could happen because of floods backing up sewage systems, right? Pipes and everything else and putting them in your house. It can happen because of earthquakes breaking pipes. It can happen because of rapid snowmelt, liquefaction from earthquakes, water coming up from underneath. It can happen because of landslides, mudslides, sinkholes. It can happen because of a coronal mass ejection that turns off all the electricity so that the pumping stations and everything stop working and they can't lift up the sewage to another level and bring it down with gravity, and then it backs up into your home. Just as easy as that. It can happen also because of hurricanes, tornadoes, wildfires, volcanic eruptions. There's so many ways that it could back up into your home, so you might as well do it right the first time. Get prepared the right way. As far as infrastructure failures, it could be a power outage, broken pipes, blocked sewers, pump station failures, vents blocked. You know that if your vent on your house gets blocked, you know that allows the gases to go out. You got the P-trap underneath your sinks and everything else in your whole house. If the vent that takes the gases out gets blocked, it actually creates a kind of a suction, or it creates a problem where the water can't get through anymore. And you've seen that when you're pouring gasoline, right? And you don't open up the little back part, right? And the gasoline won't come out very easily, right? It needs some type of vent to allow it to go out. Human-caused events, construction accidents, EMP attacks, terrorism, cyber attacks, sloppy plumbing, right? Somebody just did their own plumbing at home, didn't get any type of city approval, because a lot of us sometimes do that, right? And we just did it wrong. But if you go back to this, what's a very huge possibility? EMP and cyber attacks. Cyber attack where somebody can get into somebody's computer, like the water company or sewage company, turn off the water, okay, or stop the sewage from being cleaned or pumped or whatever else. And if they can do that, or with terrorism, right, they can stick some type of bad things in our sewage water and then do that, right? So some type of really bad agent that can kill a lot of people and then get into the house. As far as biological system failures and clogs, there's septic failure, root intrusion, grease clogs, disposable wipe clogs, and a whole bunch of other clogs that can happen inside your pipes that get things backed up. Has anybody in this room ever had a clog that made things come out of your toilet or out of your drains before? Okay, yeah, a lot of people here, right? Go ahead.
One preparedness concept is to put a valve that's made for the sewer to prevent it from backing up. In a risk factor, you could turn it off so it never comes into your house.
Yep, and we're about to talk about that. So awesome. So when you talk about sewage dangers, let me go through a list here for you. Sewage dangers can create bacterial or viral sicknesses, vomiting, diarrhea, cramping. It can create skin infections, respiratory issues from inhaling dangerous sewage gases. It can do sepsis, like if bacteria enters the bloodstream through a cut or through some type of mucous membrane. It can, if there's chemicals in the water, if there's chemicals in the sewage, you can get lung, liver, or kidney damage. In fact, that can happen with some type of that can happen with some bacteria as well. And finally, it can cause possible death. The sad thing is, it usually happens with little children and the elderly first. Sometimes the sick as well, right? But usually children and elderly. You probably saw a lot of that in Haiti, is my guess. Yep. What about toxic sewage gases? The biggest ones are going to be hydrogen sulfide, which comes from the decomposition of organic matter. Hydrogen sulfide usually has that like rotten egg smell, but if it's strong enough, it actually overwhelms your olfactory nerve and you can't smell it. It's also flammable and explosive, so you got to be really careful. Same thing with methane. Methane, you're not going to be able to smell it. You're not going to be able to smell it, but it also can be explosive, flammable, and if you breathe enough of in it, you're going to choke to death, asphyxiation, right? You'll die. Next is ammonia, and this comes from the decomposition of urine or urea, right? And that right there can create lung damage if you breathe in too much of it. And last, the other big one is carbon dioxide. If you get enough carbon dioxide, it's going to displace the oxygen in the room, and it can cause headaches, dizziness, and asphyxiation as well. If you get sewage in the house, especially during an emergency, you might as well move out. That's how dangerous it is. Even an inch, you might as well move out. So you got to be able to prevent against it before an emergency, and I'm going to show you how to do that. You guys want to know? Okay. The biggest thing you got to do is understand how sewage works. Sewage works by gravity. When you look at this little illustration here, right here, when you look at this illustration, you see that gravity is flowing down, and then it has a pump station where it takes it higher again, then it does gravity again. So it takes it higher, gravity again, higher, gravity again. That's how most sewage works. If you are in a house below other houses, you're in danger of backflow. If you're in a place that has a lot of flooding or big rainstorms or whatever, you're in a danger of backflow, sewage backflow. If you have a basement where sewage can go from a top to a bottom, you have a danger of backflow. If you're in a city with old pipes or skinny pipes that get overwhelmed very quickly, or high rises that create a lot of pressure of sewage that can get to your house, you're in danger as well. So you never want to take a chance, no matter where you're at. The thing you want to do, and this is the big one you want to do, this is better than sump pumps, is better than anything else, is going to be able to put a backflow check valve. What that does is it allows the sewage to go one direction, and if the sewage tries to go back the other direction, the valve closes off and doesn't allow the sewage into the house. With that check valve, you got to remember that you need to inspect it regularly. And when you're going to be inspecting it, You're going to check the drains. Let me back up. I don't know why I put that, but I'll just make it work. Did I talk about a yearly? Yes, I did. Okay. You're going to want to inspect them regularly. When you're checking the back, my brain just went blank. When you're checking the backflow check valve, you're also going to want to check other things like drains around your house, toilets, sewer lines. You're going to check the seals and the gaskets. You want to do this at least once a year, especially if you hear any especially if you have any drains that are slowly draining and you know that something's wrong besides hair right in there. And you hear some gurgling. And also you want to check them more often than once a year if there's a lot of heavy rains or flooding in your area. Look for debris, look for tree roots, anything that might be inside your pipes or close to your pipes. But also with that check valve, but also with that backwater, I think my brain is getting tired. But also with that backwater check valve, you're going to want to make sure the little flap is working. If you need to lubricate or whatever, just make sure it's always working, but check it once a year if you can. The next thing you want to do is, to be able to protect yourself from backflows and also from water not running, okay, is be able to plug all the holes in your house. So for example, if you have that valve problem, or if the valve fails, if the check valve fails, for example, you have a way of blocking every single hole if the water from the city stops running. When the water from the city stops running, it doesn't matter. I'm going to back up because my brain is getting really tired, and I'm going to do one of these if you guys don't mind. Is that okay? I'm going to try to do this in one take. During emergencies, there's a really big high possibility that the city water is going to turn off. That's not going to run, right? If it doesn't run, there's a couple big dangers there. First of all, backflow can always happen, so you want to protect against that. And we're going to talk about, you're going to want to protect against that, and we're going to talk about plugging drains in just a minute. But if you look at some of the things that can happen, you got the sewage backflow, you got the dangerous gases, you got drain flies that if it gets dry enough inside those pipes, you actually have drain flies inside the little slime and everything else that start breeding. You also have cockroaches, mosquitoes that will take water inside the pipes and start laying eggs. You have spiders that can come up, other bugs. You have rodents that can get through the pipes. You also have even snakes. What you want to do during an emergency, when you know that the water is not going to be coming on anytime soon, is you want to find all the drains in your house, every single drain. That means that you're going to go into your utility closet, you're going to go into your laundry room, you're going to go into your basement, your garage, your showers, and you're going to find the floor drains, those little drains at the bottom. And you're going to unscrew it, pop it off, and you're going to measure that little drain. When you measure that little drain, you're going to go out and purchase things to be able to block the drain. And I'll show you a few of them. This is the size that fits my house right here. See that? But they've got all different sizes. Whole bunch of different sizes of these drain plugs. So you put that in there, tighten it down. This little rubber part seals it off and no gases or little pests can get through. When you get to the kitchen sink, one of the things I love to do is purchase these things right here, these little rubber or plastic stoppers. Super easy. And just pop it inside the kitchen sink and it's able to stop the gases and little critters from getting through. With bathroom sinks, you're going to want to plug the or pull the little handle up or whatever. What's that thing called? I don't even know. What is it? Is it called a plunger? The thing at the back of the sink. I never thought of that. What is that little thing you?
Drain.
drain stopper. Thank you. The drain stopper handle. We'll call it that. Okay. You pull that up and close the drain. Now, if you want to put tape over that, you can, or whatever else you want to. But there's always a little hole next to the sink where if it fills up too much, it goes out that. I just put duct tape on it or some type of strong tape and close it off. That way the gases and bugs don't get through. Same thing with the tub. It's very similar. You can put close the little bottom part and put tape on the holes if you need to. When you get to the washing machine, that's going to be a little bit different. You're going to have to pull out the hose right there on the left-hand side picture and then plug the hole. The cool thing about it in my house is that I've got different size balls that I play with. Right here is a lacrosse ball and here is a racquetball. This racquetball, okay, when I'm testing out all these things and just playing around the house trying to figure out what works, this little racquetball works perfectly for my laundry unit. I pop it in there and it's stuck. And it's awesome. So this takes care of it for me. If you're worried about somebody chewing through this, just put aluminum foil around it, pop it in. All right? Rodents don't like aluminum foil. It's easy. Pop it. If you need to get it out, you just push it, pull it out. It's not hard. You got to remember, it's not in, it's on. You see that? Yeah. Let's go ahead and do a question right there.
The easiest way to get it out that I've heard about is get a tube sock and put the ball in the tube sock.
That's a little bit different. So that's going to be for toilets.
Oh, just for toilets. Okay.
Yeah, toilets is a lot easier, but I don't need to do a tube sock here. It's at the very top. Do you see that? It's just popped on. I can pop it off easily. Okay? And in fact, let's go a little bit further. Dishwasher drain hose. You're going to want to take that thing off and plug that little hole that goes to the drain. And then with toilets, this is what you're talking about, and I just showed you an example of what you were just about to talk about. And I'll just get it right here so I can show you guys. When it comes to toilets, it's a little bit different. There's some steps you want to take. First of all, you want to turn off the city water, even if it's off already. Just turn it off, okay, in case it comes back on. Next, you're going to want to empty the holding tank. That's the tank at the very back that has all the water. Don't just keep flushing it. Use that water. It's still good water. So take it, okay, put it through a filter like we teach you guys, the drip filters and everything. It's completely clean and you can drink it, cook with it, whatever you want to. It's good water. The next thing you want to do is, with that water that's still in the bowl, use a plunger and just push the water as much as you can. You're going to get about half of it out. Now, inside there is a P-trap, okay? It goes, there's an S-trap, P-trap, whatever you want to call it, but sinks and everything have this little thing that keeps gases from going in, and it holds water in there. And sometimes you come home after a long vacation, it's hot inside your house, and it smells like pee or some type of gas inside your house, right? It's because the gases are getting in because the water dried up inside that little P-trap or S-trap, right? So what happens is this. In a toilet, you're going to want to push it, try to get past that, and about half the water is going to get through with the plunger. Once you do that, then you're going to want to use a rag or something to dry up the rest of it. Just get as dry as you can. Next, you're going to want to block the hole, and I'll show you guys some examples of things to do. I just put a few of them here on the screen, but it doesn't matter what you use. It matters how you do it. Because remember, you want to make it airtight so gases aren't coming through and bugs aren't going through. In my toilets, you can try it with yours, I tried it in mine, I ended up testing out a bunch of things. I ended up getting a lacrosse ball and putting it inside my toilet to see, because everyone says online in the YouTube videos, lacrosse balls are the best. Guess what? Doesn't work. Okay? I ended up taking this and it's too hard. I popped it in there and there's big gaps on the side. The gas could get through anyways. So I went to a racquetball. And guess what? Way too small. I'd have to stuff a whole bunch of other stuff in there, which you can do, right? You can get newspaper, paper, you can get tinfoil, whatever you want to, put it, surround it in lard or Vaseline or whatever you want to do to make basically a plug. And you can do any way you want to. I'll tell you how I do it, is I found out that tennis balls work the best for my toilets. You got to find out what works for yours. But this right here fit the hole perfectly. And it was amazing. And it's so squishy, it worked perfectly. Now, a lot of people say, well, I'd never use a tennis ball because the felt, and you get that stuff wet, it's going to totally mess up everything. It's going to fall apart inside your toilet and everything like that. And I just go, easy. I put it in a couple plastic bags, you know, some Ziploc bags, two Ziploc bags, put it inside there. The water doesn't get to it. It's easy. You just find the solution. So I do that, okay, so the felt can never get wet. It can never disintegrate. And then all I do is I stick it at the bottom of a sock, and this is a really long soccer sock. You don't need this. You can use just a short sock. But I just put it at the bottom of a sock, and when I put it at the bottom of a sock and put some grease around it, lard around it, Vaseline around it, whatever else I want to put around it, with the plastic bags in there covering the ball so you never take a chance on it, it's really easy to just pop it in there, push it in there, and it seals the whole thing. And I can use a sock, I can use a stocking, I can use a bag, it doesn't matter what it is. The reason for the sock is what? Pull it out. It's easy to pull out at that point. Does that make sense? It could be this long. It doesn't have to be this long. It could be that short right there. And you can just pop it out anytime you want to. Some people don't have any of that stuff, so they take some contractor bags, really thick plastic or a few layers of that, and then they stick that inside the hole, right, instead of a ball, and then they just put dirt inside there, and now it creates a seal. There's a lot of ways you can do this. There's just not one way. The point is you're trying to seal it off so no gases or bugs get through. Make sense? Yeah, let's get microphone over here.
Okay, so I have a question and then just a comment.
Yeah.
But, okay, so after the city turns the water off,
yeah,
how long do you wait before you start plugging things? Is it like 2 days or a couple hours? Or
it's
what?
a great question because it's not always the city that's turning it off. Sometimes there's an EMP attack or a CME or coronal mass ejection from the sun. It burns out everything. You know that the electricity is never going to come on anytime soon again. I mean, years maybe before they replace all the big large power transformers and everything else, right? So there's no electricity. Well, within a couple days, even with backup generators, that water is going to stop pumping.
Okay.
When that happens, you're going to grab as much water as you can. You're going to fill up your tubs and your sinks and your bottles and everything you can to get as much water with the pressure that's still there. Just fill up everything you can. But when you know there's no more water that's going to be pumping, you're going to be doing this. Now, if you're in an emergency where the water is going to come back in a week, okay, probably overkill to do this. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. Thank you. And then you actually just mentioned one thing I was going to say was that we had a number of years ago a young teenage boy who was clearly paying attention to his phone and not the road when he was driving.
Yeah.
And he ran into the fire hydrant that was in front of our yard, and suddenly we had a Category 5 river going down.
Yeah.
And so I mentioned to my neighbor, I said, before the water gets turned off, fill up your tubs with water so that you at least have a little bit of water.
Absolutely.
So that was just a comment I was going to make.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing that up. Go ahead.
Fill up your tub with water. Isn't that tub then subject to backflow from the sewage?
Yeah, but you got to remember, you're talking about it's always part of the backflow from the sewage. But if you know the water's turning off and it's not backflowing, I would rather have water. Now, if it goes sewage, then we're all in trouble, right? You should have a backflow check valve ahead of time, right? But if I can pull water and save the water, I already have big tanks, but if I can get more water, I'm going to get more water, right? And so now when that water dries up and there's no more city water, you better have a way of plugging everything for long-term emergencies. Make sense? Awesome. Good job. Let's go another one right here.
Have you seen any solutions for putting like one big thing down like your service chute, or getting like one thing down the main sewage pipe, kind of like a one throat to choke or so?
I don't know a good way to do that, no. But the valve, maybe, you go to the check valve and maybe that's a good way to do it. But that's a good question. And that's not a bad idea that you brought it up. If I'm checking on the check valve, guess what I'm probably going to do from here on out because of what you just brought up, which I never thought of, is I'd go in there and stuff something in there as well. right? Why not?
Yeah, I've been looking for something that
Yeah.
it kind of makes sense. So I'm wondering if there's something out there. But
Yeah.
yeah, if you could get something down there that you could take out super easily as well,
Yeah.
then, you know, it like a check valve, it's just another way to keep your sanity and make sure that thing's sealed up nice.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to go to the extreme, you can always get some quick mix concrete and stick it in there, and nothing's ever going to get through, right? So, but yeah, that's a good point. Thank you for bringing that up. So as part of the exercise here for this video, I'm going to have you guys pause the video, okay? Before we get to the next section, I'm going to have you walk around your house, and I want you to create a list of every drain, sink, tub, and toilet to plug up during an emergency if the water from the city turned off and it wasn't going to turn on anytime soon. So go ahead and pause the video, okay? Not stop it, but pause it. Go ahead and get that done, then come back to the video, and then we're going to continue with this part of the lesson. Okay. Let's talk about human waste disposal. What to do with the doo-doo. I had to put that up there because I thought it was funny. How do you handle and dispose of your urine and how to handle and dispose of your urine and feces correctly? The average adult will do 2.5 gallons of poop, technical term, and 2.5 gallons of pee per week. That's a lot of stuff every week. 5 gallons. You know what that looks like, right? Every week. So how do you handle that, right? That's 20 gallons, okay? 4 of these per person per month. That's 240 gallons, okay? Like our big tanks, those huge gigantic tanks per person per year. If you have a family of 4, we're talking of almost 1,000 gallons of poop and pee, okay, every year. How do you handle that? What do you do? That's what we're going to talk about in this part of the video. There's 6 things we are going to mention as solutions, and I'm going to get into all 6 as quickly as possible. You guys ready? Okay, number 1, you want to always, before I do that, I'm going to do some rules. There's six options that are really good to consider, and we're going to talk about those in this. And there's 6 options you're going to want to consider, and we're going to talk about those in the rest of this video. But before we end up talking about those, I'm going to give you a few rules to use for pretty much all of the situations that we're going to be talking about. Those 6 situations. First of all, always use PPE, personal protective equipment, something to protect your hands from touching poop and everything else, gloves, whatever you need to do, masks, whatever you need to do to protect yourself from infection. Second of all, you want to separate the urine and the feces. That's a big thing. Have you ever stepped on wet dog poop? Okay. Have you ever stepped on dry dog poop? What's the big difference? Right? Okay. If you can get the poop to dry by itself, it's actually a lot better than trying to allow it to be as wet as possible with the pee. When the pee's in there, the urine and the feces, it actually starts festering, a lot more bacteria, smells, and everything else. Those two working together become trouble, big time trouble. So you want to separate those out at all times. You want to discard the urine immediately, like daily or whatever, in the garden. When you're doing that, remember that you want to water it down. We'll talk about that a few times in this section, most likely. You want to remember that when you pee into a toilet, you're not just putting 100% urine in there. You're mixing it with a whole toilet bowl of water. And if you don't do that, it starts stinking pretty bad. You want to dilute it a little bit. You want to discard the feces about 200 feet away from your house and 200 feet away from any water, okay, any water sources. And if you don't remember what 200 feet is, it's basically 70 of these, okay, super easy, okay? It's just shy of a square acre, all right? It's really easy to remember. Just do 70 of these, and that's about 200 feet. If you can get further away, that's fine. I mean, the pioneers used to put it in acres back there, right? They didn't even want to mess with it. It was just, it was in the back part of their fields. You want to discard the feces downhill from any water or runoffs. You want to cover the feces every time to control the stench, and also keep animals, rodents, and also you also want to do the right things to keep animals, rodents, and insects away from the feces so that they don't spread diseases all over the place as well. Option number 1, we're going to start with continue to use your toilet. If it flushes and it works and there's no broken pipes putting your sewage in somebody else's house, just keep using it, right? Now, the other thing is, if you want to and the water's turned off, you could use these toilets if you have enough water to be able to pour down the toilet. The problem is it takes gallons to be able to get that through. So if you're using your water storage, it's a bad idea. You don't want to do that. But if you live right next to a river, a stream, a lake, or whatever, just go out there with a 5-gallon bucket and keep using it, okay? Until it starts backing up into the city, and then you're in trouble. So it's not the best solution for a long-term emergency, just a short-term emergency. Does that make sense? We're going to talk about solutions for long-term emergencies. Let's go ahead and do a comment right there.
If there's no water coming down out of the mountains to operate the sewage systems, sorry, should I repeat that? If there's no water coming out of the mountains to run the sewage systems, they can't operate. That's when they'll dump it all in the Jordan River here.
Yeah, probably. You're right.
Yeah. So if we don't get water out of our sinks, you know, our faucets, we shouldn't be flushing our toilets either.
Yeah.
Even if they flush and even if we have enough stored water, because if all kinds of sewage gets dumped in our rivers, we're going to have a heck of a problem with disease all over the valley.
Yeah, and again, when you look at these solutions here, you got to remember, you got to use this. You got to use your noggin, right? Because what happens is this: people set a rule and say, "Oh, well, I can never do that if for an emergency because I'm breaking the rule." But the thing is, during an emergency, you break rules all the time. You got to figure out what the right solution is. So if it's a short-term emergency, I know there's no pipes broken. I know that the water's going to be turned on in a week. There's nothing going to be backflowing into the rivers. Guess what? If I have a lake, a river, or a stream next to me, and I want to keep using my toilets, and I want to plug everything, and I want to poop in a bucket, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to pour water down, use it, but not use my emergency water. Long term, You kidding? I'm not going to create more problems for all my neighbors and everybody else. Does that make sense? So you got to look at every emergency and just remember, okay, what's the most logical thing to do in this situation? When you look at the next solution, you want to use holes, trees, gardens, whatever else. That's another way of doing it. You guys have all done it. Okay, camping, right? You get out there and you pee on a tree. You go, if you need to, pee in the garden. Whatever you need to do, right? You just use the outdoors. With that in mind, you got to remember to separate the urine and the feces. Super important. I'll give you guys this right here. Dilute the urine. Remember how we were talking about diluting the urine? I'll give you an example. We just got back from Hawaii. When we were in Hawaii, we went to the big island of Hawaii, and we stopped our car to be able to hike up a little hill to be able to see the whole view. We were up close to the top, the highest mountain area. And right there was a really popular hiking area, and a lot of cars stopped, and there was a little shed there. And out of all the places where there's no gas stations, no stores, I mean, we're talking about Booneyville, okay, Timbuk 3, okay? We're out there, and there was no toilets. And I'm sitting there going, man, there's people around, and I got to go to the bathroom really badly. And I found this little shed area, and I'm thinking, okay, there's a little place in between that. And I'll just go in there when nobody's looking, go to the bathroom real quick, and then come out and pretend I didn't go to the bathroom, right? And so I went in there, and guess what? 50 other people had the same idea. And I went in there, and I don't know if you've ever gone into a sewer area or a little old house or abandoned house or anything like that, and you can smell that pee like nothing else. That's what it smelled like. So it's important to remember to dilute that, or you're going to be smelling it in your gardens and everything else. Just put some water with it if you can. Let it rain on it, whatever, just make sure you can dilute it. When you want to cover the feces to prevent the stink, I'm going to give this to you right now because we're going to talk about it for all the solutions. But there's a lot of ways to do it. First of all, you can use peat moss. pine pellets, coconut coir. You can use sawdust, kitty litter, hay, brown grass, dried leaves, dirt, soil, whatever you can to be able to put it on top. So every time you go poop, you stick a little bit of that on top. So if you're creating a hole in the ground, you stick a little bit of that on top. With that in mind, you got to remember there's a big difference between carbon and nitrogen when you're composting. Carbon is typically brown and dry. Nitrogen is typically wet and green. Does that make sense? And I'm simplifying it for you. But you look at these different things. I'll give you some examples. Here's some coconut coir. No, this is peat moss. Sorry. No, this is coconut coir. So this right here is coconut coir, super compressed. You put in a little bit of water and just mix it around. It's amazing at absorbing the smells, and it's really easy to compost. Okay. Here's some walnut shell kitty litter. Okay. It doesn't have clay in it, so it's not going to mess up your composting. Right? It's right here. You have right here is some, if you want to see this right here is the pine pellets. You stick this in water and it gets all soft and everything, and it's just amazing. You throw it on top of stuff. Here's some peat moss right here. Same thing, works amazing. Peat moss. Sawdust right here. Sawdust, lots of sawdust. You can buy this from, boy, I think I messed up my microphone. Hopefully you guys were able to hear me. But this right here, sawdust, amazing. It works perfectly well. But again, during an emergency, if you can't get to that, I'll tell you what I would do is every fall I would wait for all the leaves to get as dry as possible. I would take those dry leaves, crunch them up, stick them in big plastic bags, and I would use them on top of poop for years to come if you need to, for a long-term emergency. Just super dry leaves, brown leaves. Does that make sense? You can do that with hay, you can do that with dried grass, you can do that with anything brown like that. Now, on this side right here, inside the house, what would I do? If I had to poop into a bucket or whatever, or in a toilet or whatever, I'm going to close the toilet lid. I'm going to put a lid on the bucket. I'm going to close the door, open a window, use a low-powered fan, other ventilation. I would put hypochlorous acid in there to be able to kill a lot of the bacteria. And if I needed to, or if I wanted to, I can do essential oils or some type of pine sol or whatever else to help with the stench as well. Does that make sense? So there's a lot of things I could do to help with the smells. Hopefully you're doing the right things on top of it that it doesn't smell much. In fact, Lynette, no, where are you? There you are, sorry. Lynette, I want you to come up. Okay? Because you've been doing this stuff for a while, right? You know?
Well, enough to know how to do it.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, and I'm going to have you come up in just a minute again when we talk about the last part.
Okay.
But when you're doing, let's have you take this microphone. Come on over here, Lynette.
Okay.
Okay. So you've been doing basically composting for a long time, and I'm going to have you talk about that later on. Okay.
Okay.
But when you end up putting, what do you like to use? Do you like to use peat moss? Do you like to use, what do you like to use the most, or second most, or third most? And when you do that and put a little layer on top of the poop, how bad does it stink?
The one that I like to use the most is actually a combination of the pine pellets because they absorb the liquid the best. They're compressed for one thing.
Yeah.
So when you have a little too much liquid and you put a little handful there, it will absorb it all.
Yep.
And the pine oil is the best at eliminating smells.
Like pine sol.
Yes.
Pine sol. Okay.
Well, pine sol is anybody who does this is best friend because it will take the smell out of the plastic buckets plastic will absorb odors.
Easily.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
You're right.
That's my best friend.
Yeah.
And pine sol spray is a good deodorizer too.
Yeah.
But back to your major question. I like to use the pine pellets, but because unless you moisten them and let them break up, it doesn't instantly cover everything. I would like the peat moss to just cover everything before I left the room.
So when you do that, when you do the pine pellets to soak things up, the peat moss to kind of cover the poop, right? How smelly is it in that room?
Well, there's just as much as there is when you use your regular toilet.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
Okay. You can do this for a long period of time if you do it right.
Yes, but
here, go a little closer.
Open a window open a window in the room.
Yeah.
When we go camping, I take my compost toilet or just the luggable loo.
Yeah.
And I make sure I open the little window in the back of the privacy shelter.
Yeah.
And that takes care of the odor.
The-
It will
yeah.
go away.
And you don't need
and-
a big fan or anything like that if you do it right.
No, but you can put a little pine sol, or I have cinnamon oil and a citrus oil that I put in little spray bottles. And if it's a little too much and I want to get rid of it quickly, just spray that in the room.
Man, that's a good
Works
idea.
really
So
great.
cinnamon oil and citrus oil.
Yes.
And you just spray it, just a couple natural oils.
Yes.
Man.
Probably
And
would
the
work
poopery?
the same, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. I'll probably have you come up in just a minute to talk a little bit more. So awesome. Thank you. All right. When you're talking about covering the feces to prevent pets or insects or anything else to get into it, the thing you want to remember is that when you dig a hole out there, you're going to want to cover it. Remember we talked about the hydrated lime, ash, anything like that that dissuades insects. You got to remember also dogs, wolves, anything else are going to want to dig into poop, trash, and everything else. So when you dig a hole, you got to remember, can I cover this somehow with something hard like a piece of plywood or some type of rock or rocks or whatever else? Make sure you're able to cover it so that nothing can get in it, because if it gets in, what happens? Yeah, it's able to spread the diseases, right? That's one big reason why you keep it 200 feet away from your house or anybody else's house and water and everything else. When you're talking about preparing for shorter term emergencies, I would consider doing what's called a shallow trench latrine. Usually that's about 1 to 2 feet wide. Okay, that's a lot of digging, by the way. 1 to 2 feet wide. Okay, 3 to 4 feet long. So we're talking again, long is about this to this. And then you're going to want to also have it about 2 to 3 feet deep, because you got to cover it with soil and lime and whatever else you're going to put in there. So you poop in it, right? And you always cover the poop with soil, hydrated lime, ash, or something like that, right? Poop, cover. Poop, cover. It's going to start filling up over time. It's better for a long or short-term emergency. Why a short-term emergency? Because it's really easy to dig that up from a critter or a dog or anything like that. It's just shallow. That's why it's shallow trench latrine, right? You can extend it. So for example, if you fill up one side, you know, it's covering with the plywood and everything else, you fill up one side and it's done, you can move over and just do a little bit more and a little bit more, and you can always extend it or create other trenches next to it if you needed to. You remember to always cover with soil, ash, lime, just to protect insects from doing that, and always remember to cover it so the bigger animals can't get in as well. Put something over it. Just always remember those things. Then there's what's called a deep pit latrine. That's for longer term. If you think about the reason for a deep pit latrine, you're talking about something that's going to be about 1 to 2 feet wide. You could do it longer, bigger if you needed to, but 1 to 2 feet wide, there's a reason for that. You're going to go about 6 feet deep. That's a lot of deep digging in a small hole. If you do deep digging in a small hole, what's the chances of a wolf, raccoon, anything getting in there? Very, very slim. If you get it deep enough, you know, 6, 8 feet or whatever, 6 feet is fine. One person can probably poop in that for maybe close to a year if you needed to. For a long time. You could put a dead body in it. There you are. There, I'd talk about that again. CIA's on me again, right? You're like, oh, there he is again, talking about it. Oh, we got to watch that guy. Okay, so it's harder for pests. It's harder for animals to get in. It's a natural outhouse. The cool thing about a natural outhouse is you can literally have that deep pit latrine. You don't want to breathe in everything and, you know, get sick and everything, and you don't want it to be any close to any groundwater, because there's going to be a plume of junk going out there, especially if you put pee in there, which you should never do. Always put the poop only, because you don't want it to soak in, right? But if you needed to, you can actually get yourself an outhouse like this. I'll just pull this out here and I'll just show you guys. This is something that we have for camping. And if we have a hole underneath, it's really easy to have 1 to 2 foot hole under there. And I got myself a good little place to enjoy my business. Okay, you just zip this down and everything else, and you're good to go right into the hole. And then when you get done with that, you cover it up, right? A little.
Can't really separate the two so easily.
It's a little bit harder, and we're going to talk about a solution for that in just a minute. So thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so there's a lot of things you can do with this. Let me pull this off to the side for a minute. Okay, remember to put soil ash, lime, or something else on top of it to keep it from stinking and critters from getting into it. And again, now that you guys know that you can use leaves, you can use so many different things, you just pick what you want to use during an emergency and make sure it can be covered by something so things don't get in it. The option number three is called an emergency dry toilet. Some people call this a permanent porta potty. Some people call it a permanent porta potty and other things, but it's an emergency dry toilet. What that means is that you're going to dry out the toilet, plug it just like you normally would, but now you're going to use this as your toilet. And back to your question where we're talking about separating the pee, what I just bought a bunch of these little things right here, and I'll just show you, taking the steps right here, and I'll just show you on the screen. You dry and plug the toilet, you find a trash bag that fits. So you need to test it ahead of time because the regular trash bags I have at home that I thought would fit, I tested it, didn't fit. So you got to find a trash bag that can actually get around your toilet. So find that ahead of time. And then just buy a lot of those bags and put them away. Next is you're going to want to get a urine specimen collection pan to be able to put on the edge of the toilet. That way you can pee in this part and have a big hole back here for the poop. Does that make sense? And it's really easy at that point. It makes it a lot easier for women and men. And I gave you guys a little picture here. That's my home. And I ended up taking some water and putting a little bit of yellow food coloring in it and just made it look like it's pee. But the best part about it is when I went upstairs and I said, hey kids, look at this pee. If you're in a survival situation, you got to learn how to drink pee. By the way, you never do that. It's poisonous and it'll get you sick. It has uric acid. It's very dangerous. Don't ever do that. You know, as much as people say, well, if it's an emergency, I'd drink a pee. Yeah, you're going to kill yourself. Okay. But the thing about it is I ended up taking, and both my kids, no, Dad, you're going to hurt yourself. Dad, don't do it. No, Dad. Everything. And I took it and I poured it in a clear glass. And I said, well, we got to practice someday. And then I ended just drinking the whole thing. And you should have seen both my kids, 5 and 8 years old, just going. And then my wife's like, she knows me ahead of time. You know, she knows that I'm up to something because I would never do that, right? And she's just going, oh, man. And then finally my kids are like, I can't believe you drank his pee and everything like that. And I said, no, I didn't drink my pee. I was just kidding. But anyways, it gives you a little visual here, right? And don't do that to your kids. It traumatizes them. They won't sleep for weeks. But each time you poop in there, remember to cover the feces so it doesn't smell, doesn't stink, until you're ready to pull the bag out and throw away the bag and put it in some deep hole or whatever and let it decompose. And, you know, get it if you want, if you feel like you need to, you can get those decomposing bags, camping bags or whatever to help out if you feel like you should. You want to remember to dilute the urine and discard it daily and then bury or compost the feces. So just remember, you got to figure out what you're going to do with all that poop. Got that? This is the third way. This is the third option that we can, this is the third option we wanted to cover. Option number 4 is called a portable toilet. That can be a camping toilet. It can be buckets. I'll show you an example right here. This right here are portable toilets. Portable toilets right there, okay? And with this right here, I can come here and pop this open, sit on it, go pee, and then go, oh, it's getting close, go poo, right? And so you can keep them separated if you need to. You can have pee and poo buckets. It's easier for guys, but if you needed to, you can just switch between the two. I didn't put these lids on tight, but usually these lids, once you pop them on, they don't come off very easily. And a lot of people can fall off of them, so you got to be a little bit more careful with these. So this is the next way to go. If you're going to do that, remember, discard the pee quickly and get the poo in the right place. The next option, option number 5, is called a composting toilet. Composting toilet could be these. It could be a lot of different things. What a composting toilet is simply you are creating a place that's easy to pee and poo in one place, and it makes it super easy. I'll give you some examples if you want to see them. Let me move this over. Here's the composting toilet right here that has a bucket underneath to catch the poop and has a container here to catch the pee. When you open this up, and I'm just going to kind of open it like this, you can see that there's a place in here for the pee and then a container. I'll move this so you can see the whole thing. Underneath there is a place for the pee to be caught and then for the poo to be caught on the back. And it's called a composting toilet. Not that it's composting anything, but it can be used in a composting pile. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute with Lynette. Okay? So with this right here, there's a lot of ways to do it. You can make your own like this. You can go out and purchase all the parts to make them. Here's some examples, right? That you can go purchase the parts to make your own. And then you just put a container underneath both of these and it just takes care of it. Or you can go out and buy one that's already pre-made. Here's one that's done for campers. And this one right here, you open it up and it automatically has a place for pee and a place for poo right there. And it has all the parts already done, ready to go. Super easy. Okay, can you see that okay, Kyle? Awesome. So right here is another one. But that gives you a feel. This is called a composting toilet. It's a great idea. For long-term emergencies, I love this. I think it's a good way to go. It can be created super easily, super cheaply. I have friends that literally have them made in their little emergency area and they're ready to go. Now, this is the cool thing, is Lynette, you've been doing this for how many years? Okay, how we come up? I want to get you to have a class sometime, but I'm going to have you spend a few minutes now, if you don't mind, because that's the next part. It's called humanure. If you're going to do this for long-term emergencies, when you know that the water's never going to come on again, the world is falling apart, and you're going to have to live like you're back in the 1800s again, this book right here, the Humanure Handbook, is awesome. What this teaches you is that you take that poop, okay? Now this guy right here, he uses the pee and the poo. He just puts it all together, throws it into the pile. I don't love that. I don't think you do too. Do you do the pee? No. You don't do the pee? Okay. Yeah, you have a better sense of smell than he does. That's funny. Yeah, I wouldn't do the pee personally, but he when he's trying to prove his point, he's like, you can throw everything in there. You can throw dead, rotting animals. You can throw anything, it's going to compost. Now you go to the internet and they say, never do that because that's bad, right? And I have composting things I've tested out at home, and a lot of times you're not going to get it hot enough or whatever to be able to sanitize everything. But in this case, with Humanure, it's a different story. It's amazing. I've seen some of this stuff work. I've seen compost piles that were so hot that literally you put your hand in there, it can burn it if you do it right. If you have the proper mixture of nitrogen and carbon and everything else, and moisture and everything else you need. Humanure allows you to create a base, like maybe it's a straw base or a grass base or hay base. You're going to create a good base that's going to be able to compress over time. And then you're going to take all the poop in the bucket, okay? This big bucket of poop, whatever you're doing. If you're pooping in this, that's fine. You got your poop bucket, and you're going to stick all that poop inside the middle of it. You're going to move across the hay or grass a little bit, stick it in the middle, kind of move it around a bit, put it in there, cover it, and then just let it do its job. After about a year, you got some amazing soil. Amazing soil. In fact, would you mind if I'm going to show this right here. This right here, why don't you come up? Lynette brought me this, and I think this is awesome. This right here, by the way, this is peat moss, so you guys can see what it looks like when you get it all ready to put on top, and it's pretty awesome. But this is the prize jewel. I got the wrong one. Oh, this is the pine pellets. This is the prime jewel. Right here, the vanilla ice cream. Yeah, do you guys want to see what the pine pellets look like?
And this is some that have been broken down.
Yeah, so it looks like a sawdust when it gets broken down, but this is what the pine pellets look like. I'll just show you guys right there in the camera. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, just a little bit of water starts breaking down, or throw it in. If it's wet enough, it starts breaking down itself.
When I was using them, I just put a spray bottle on the top of it.
Oh, let's
and
get a
it would
microphone.
Soften up enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you
When I was using the pine pellets regularly, I would keep a spray water bottle and spray the top of them so that they'd be broken up when I wanted to use them. And then you get that sawdust.
Exactly.
Okay.
So this right here, this is the cool part about it. You guys ready? This is how, about a year after composting, or?
It's technically a 3-year process.
Yeah.
1 year you put all the materials you want to compost in a bin.
Yeah.
It takes about a year to fill it up, literally, because it keeps shrinking. You can add an unbelievably lot of matter to one bin made by 4 pallets.
Yeah.
Just wired together.
You can see a picture on the screen right here. You can see they made it out of wood, but you can make that out of pallets. Even with the holes, it doesn't matter because it's going to just stay inside there anyways. You can make it so cheaply.
Yeah. Ours are made out of pallets. And then you leave that sit for an entire year and start a 3rd bin at the same time.
So you're just rotating them and letting them go. But this is so you went 1 year, let it sit for a year, and then you start using it. This right here is human poop.
No, it's compost. It's
compost.
It's all kinds of green matter.
Sorry, I should have.
It does have. It does have it in it. Yes.
But it's not just poop, but it had poop in it. It's a better way to put it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So, but it had poop in it. And does anybody want to be brave enough to smell it?
There's no odor
Okay,
whatsoever.
Let's go. Ready? Go ahead.
It's just a clean, earthy smell. Nature does its magic.
Okay.
All the microorganisms break everything down the way God created the earth. It's as clean as any soil you'll ever see.
Okay, so you just smelled it. What's your thoughts?
I mean, it has less smell than normal soil.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Just almost like a very, very light peaty smell.
Yeah, it's amazing. You can use it now in a long-term emergency. You can use it in your gardens and everything else to be able to grow a lot more food for you for a long-term emergency.
No, you don't. Never turn it. You never turn it.
Yeah.
If you're interested in learning how to compost, read Joe Jenkins' book. That is an amazing book.
Everybody should have this. Everybody is part of their preparedness. Like we have it here at the store. Everybody should have it. Good, you have it.
Here was the first version I read.
Nice. So this is that important.
That has more material in it.
Yeah.
It's newer.
This is amazing.
More material.
Yeah.
One material.
Number 2 material, right? It's number 2.
More information, I should have said. It's really good.
To wrap up this video, why don't you take a few minutes, maybe about three or 4 minutes, and just talk about what you'd like to, and then I'd like to open it up maybe to 2-3 questions. Is that okay? And then we'll go ahead and wrap up this part.
Okay. I have to tell you a super short story so you won't all think I'm a weirdo for using this, practicing it. We rented a room with our 2nd bathroom to a young woman. And we're old. If you're old, you know what I'm talking about. We needed 2 toilets. So we pulled a compost toilet and put it in corners and started using it for a while. And then decided to make a new bathroom out of a closet, a walk-in closet. Our son was doing the work, so it wasn't done quickly. We put the compost toilet in it, and my husband didn't want to use it. I made a deal with him. I will use the toilet while this bathroom is under construction in the private room. But when the bathroom's all done, complete with the marble shower, it's my bathroom. And so he agreed to that. I now have the bathroom, and I'm not using the compost toilet, but I do have plenty of experience, and we take it camping with us.
Awesome. Good deal.
Okay.
Do we have any 2 or 3 questions? Any thoughts before we wrap up this section? Okay, go ahead. Let's go ahead. Give him this. Go ahead.
So for your human manure contraption here, is that still 200 feet away from all water, all house, all maybe garden?
No, and there's no need to.
Here, go ahead.
There's no need to. In fact, it's a much better solution because you don't get any plume. I can't go dig holes in the ground, even 2 feet deep.
Yeah.
And most other women my age wouldn't be able to either, and a lot of men, it'd wear them out too if they're older.
And what she was talking about,
Compost is easy.
when she's talking about a plume is when you get it in the ground, it actually starts soaking in, and it creates what's called a plume underneath the dirt. And she's saying that there is no plume. Does that make sense? I'll ask a couple questions. What about rats and dogs and everything else?
None have ever bothered it, nor should they, because you cover it with, in our case, straw on the bottom, the sides on top until there's no smell.
Okay. So isn't that pretty awesome?
It's never been bothered, not once.
So
They're
to
not
me-
interested in it.
To me, I've been practicing my composting and everything like that, and I cannot do it right now in the place I'm at because we're renting, looking for a property to build. And so if I could, this is what I'd be doing. In fact, I would be pooping in a composting toilet just for fun, because I'd like to test it out and do it, just for the kicks of it, right? My wife would just go, "That's my husband."
I really don't mind it at all.
Yeah.
It wasn't nearly as hard as you might imagine.
Not at
to
all.
get used to it.
Yeah. Let's go another question right here, if you can give them the microphone.
Sorry, I'm probably asking the obvious, but as far as toilet paper, we're putting that in with the poo as well, right?
Yeah. Yep. Go ahead. That's exactly it. You can just stick it in there. In fact, and if you go into this book, like again, he says throw dead bodies. Boy, I gotta be careful again.
Dead animals.
Sorry, CIA. Dead animals, whatever. You can throw them in there and let them decompose. But what else?
Well, urine is not sterile like we've sometimes been led to believe.
Yeah.
And it's better to compost it too. Joe Jenkins' idea is not bad if you can handle
Yeah.
it, but I still think it's cleaner to separate it and easier to control the odors. But the urine should be put in the compost as well, because it does have bacteria and stuff in it.
That could help break things down.
Well, that need to be broken down for safety. Yes.
Because I know that he says to put the urine in there and everything else. And
It's better if it goes in the compost.
Okay.
It doesn't have to go with it, but it's better to compost it.
I see what you
because
mean.
it breaks down the pathogens.
Yeah.
And it keeps it from contaminating anything anywhere else.
So would you put it, so you got the pile, I'm going to take off a little bit of the straw, right?
Yeah.
And I got my little pile of poop in there and everything else. You turn it once in a while, and you make sure you don't turn it at all?
No.
Not even a tiny bit?
No.
I didn't know that part.
No.
Huh.
He says clear out the straw or the cover material on the top. Get a shovel, open a little hole, dump everything in the middle, and cover it back up.
Okay, so that's all you do. No pitchfork, nothing.
No, nothing.
So when you do that, where would you put the pee? Because you don't want to mix it with the poo. Do you?
It doesn't matter in the compost because it'll compost.
Okay.
You just move the straw, pour it in. In fact, lack of moisture is a bigger problem here, where too much moisture was a problem in Pennsylvania.
Got it. Okay, so in a dry climate, you're going to want to get it. So I would take the pee, and I would put it where the poo is, or would I put it around where the poo is?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Just throw it in.
Dump it in the middle.
Okay, it's just gonna smell a little bit more, but it's gonna be fine.
It won't smell at all as soon as you put enough cover material on the top.
Then it'll be fine, even with the pee.
Yes.
Okay. There you are.
It's very, very simple.
So from
and it's very, very effective.
Yeah.
He has tons and tons of charts in that book that show what pathogens are in this, what's in that, what's in it finished, what chemicals will, in the new one, he has what chemicals break down to what percentages. In fact, some of the chemicals that we're concerned about because they get in the sewage will break down in compost to an amazing degree.
Huh.
He said there's only like one chemical that didn't break down at all. It was so toxic. I don't know what it was, but maybe he tells. That was so toxic it would kill all the microorganisms.
It was probably whatever comes off of Twinkies when you melt Twinkies. It was probably that.
Maybe so.
So yeah, it's worse than any plastic you can ever melt and whatever else. Yeah.
I've never even liked science, but I was fascinated by that book.
Isn't that awesome, you guys?
It
think
suddenly opened my mind to the miracle of microbiology.
Oh yeah.
And the amazing way God created this world. Everything can be broken down and put back into the soil. And to give credit to our local sewer companies, they are starting to compost some of the sludge,
yes,
the solids that that are there after they take all the water out of it.
I've bought some of that.
Have you?
Yeah.
And I hear it's amazing stuff, which
yeah.
it should be.
It works.
Yeah, we really don't have to buy much other fertilizer anymore because the compost that we make is so good.
Yeah. Takes
Grows
you a
great
year to get
gardens.
through it. Huh?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That's awesome. You guys give her a hand for being here. Well, let's wrap up this part of the video right here. And I want you watching this video to stop and decide how you're going to handle sewage threats, human waste disposal during long-term emergencies. Write that down, create your plan, and I'll see you on the final video for this section where we're talking about disease prevention. Okay, this last video is super fast. It's got, I think, this many. That's it. Super fast. So I know it's late. Thank you guys. Is it okay if we just finish this up? Okay, awesome. Okay, final video on the disease section, right? Okay, we're on the final video of the disease prevention, right? Okay. Okay, we're on the final video of the disease prevention section. I just said that weird. All right, now we're going to be talking about trash management. And while we're talking about trash management, I'd like to go back in history a bit and talk about 1968 in New York City. That for 9 days there was a strike, and through that 9 days there was 100,000 tons of garbage piled up. It was causing a stench, fire hazards. There was harmful gases. There was vermin infestation. Finally, the city's like, man, we got to stop this because it's getting too bad. And then you look at what happened just recently in France, in Paris. I don't know, did you guys remember that? Okay, where they ended up having another strike, and for 23 days, about 10,000 tons, not as much as New York, ended up piling up in a lot of the tourist areas and everything else. And they're like, oh, this is getting bad. It's not, this could cause diseases and everything else. This could be really bad for people's health. So they had to end up doing something about that as well. That was weird. Let's see. So it created severe health, sanitation, and also image concerns for the city. So they had to do something about that as well. It sometimes takes a crisis for us to recognize how much trash we put out there. Have you ever thought about that? How many bins you put out every single year? I mean, we fill up trash cans with all types of stuff. In a long-term emergency, how would you handle that? What would you do? I'm going to give you guys 5 options to consider. First of all, you want to be able to recycle or upcycle. So if you have any cans, plastic containers, glass bottles, boxes, anything else that you can repurpose, find a way to use it. Next, you're going to want to use compost and scraps in a very smart way. If you can put it in your composting pile or in your human manure pile, right? Do it. If you have chickens or animals that can use it, use the chickens or animals to be able to, hold on a sec, sorry. We're almost done. So next is compost and scraps. This is biodegradable waste that you can repurpose in different ways. You can use it for compost, or you can feed it to chickens or other animals to not waste it. Next is going to be burnable trash. There's just some things you got to burn. There's paper, whatever you're never going to use for anything else, but you got to get it out of there. So you can use it as fuel instead. So find out what that paper is, whatever you can burn, and try to repurpose it in a way where you can use it for heat and hold on one sec. My brain just, go ahead.
If you shred your paper, you can use it as cover materials in compost.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm going to bring that up. Let me redo this. Next is going to be burnable trash. There's some things you just got to burn. Things you're never going to use any other way. Now, going back to Lynette's point, right? You can always shred paper or whatever else and use it as part of as a compost or covering for toilets or whatever to be able to soak up smell and water or pee and whatever else you want to soak up. But if you're going to burn it, try to repurpose that as well. Try to find a way to be able to use that burnable trash to heat something up or cook something, whatever you can during an emergency, so you're not just burning things, but you're using that burning. Does that make sense? Next is going to be burying trash. There's sometimes where you can't recycle it, you can't upcycle it, you can't repurpose it in any other way compost it or burn it. So you got to bury it. Now, when you end up burying it, you got to follow some steps. You want to treat it similar to human waste. 200 feet away, at least 4 feet deep, deter the pest, cover it with a board, use hydrated lime or something else on top of it, ash, who knows what. 18 inches of cover when you're done filling the hole. You want to be able to cover it with 18 inches. And then plan for, what am I doing? Oh yeah. And then also remember to plan for frozen ground. If you're going to be digging holes and you live in a very cold place, dig those holes while it's still warm. That way you can use them when it's cold. The final way of taking care of your trash is recognize that sometimes you have medical or hazardous waste. You don't want to play around with that. You want to make sure that you follow some type of strict protocol to label containers, dispose of it in the right way, burn it if you need to, but you never want to have any needles or any type of diseases or hazardous waste that can be passed on from person to person where you can't stop the sicknesses once it starts spreading. Does that make sense? Awesome. Well, those are the 5 ways of trash management. And I'm going to have you now take the information that you just gained, go ahead and create a plan for how you're going to manage your trash during a long-term emergency. And I will see you on the next video. Okay. Awesome.
Marcelo, you can also take the ash from the burn.
Oh,
and use it in your garden.
yeah. Good point. It is a little more alkaline, so you got to be a little careful with the alkalinity. But you can use it in the garden.
I have one suggestion as far as long-term thinking about that. Don't buy everything in little teeny bottles, little teeny plastic containers or glass. Buy things in bigger containers so there's much less of them. I make my own lotion too, so I keep refilling the same ones. It's very
Cool.
easy to make.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. You guys, thank you for being here. Let me applaud you guys. Hold on a sec. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you everybody for being online. Thanks for going through. I know that was a ton of filming. Now I got to get to editing, which takes about a week or 2, but we should have it done and up on the course. I have one more class to teach and I'm done. I was going to try to get that done, but didn't have time. But that's on communications, and hopefully I'll get that taught in the next week or 2 if I have time. Okay. Anyways, thank you guys for being here. Have a good night. Thanks everybody. Thank you.